Chapter 2019. Who are you? Why do you want to be my enemy? Poisonous Dragon Number 1 stared at the eight-legged monster and the Origin Divine Staff as he shouted in a deep voice. At this moment, Poisonous Dragon Number 1 was extremely shocked. As a general under the command of Blood Poison Immortal, he only had 8 celestial immortal principles. However, the middle-aged man who suddenly appeared in front of him also had 8 celestial immortal principles. Moreover, the middle-aged man was not what he feared the most. What he feared the most was the dark, golden magic treasure floating next to the middle-aged man. If I want to be your enemy, then so be it. What's with all this nonsense? The eight-legged monster rolled his eyes and said, "Let me give you a piece of advice. You'd better surrender before Ningyu arrives. After all, Ningyu is different from me. He kills without batting an eyelid." "What did you say?" "Ningyu." Poisonous Dragon Number 1's expression changed drastically when he heard the monster's words. His face was full of shock. But soon, the shock on Poisonous Dragon Number 1's face gradually turned into ecstasy. He could wear out iron shoes in fruitless search, only to find it effortlessly. The time set by immortal blood poison was about to arrive, and Ningyu had delivered himself to his doorstep. How could he not accept it? Ha ha ha! Poisonous Dragon Number 1 threw his head back and laughed wildly. Then his face turned cold, and he said sinisterly, "Even the heavens are helping me. Looks like my luck is about to come. Someone really sends me a pillow when I'm feeling sleepy." As a general under the command of Blood Poison Immortal and the leader of the Poisonous Dragon Guards, there was a huge difference between Poisonous Dragon Number 1 and Poisonous Dragon Number 2. The difference between the two might not be particularly big in terms of hard power, but in terms of soft power, it was like heaven and earth. To be more precise, Poisonous Dragon Number 1 had the trump card that Blood Poison Immortal left him. With the trump card that Blood Poison Immortal left him, Poisonous Dragon Number 1 was confident that he could contend with an expert with 10 celestial principles. This made Poisonous Dragon Number 1 very confident. "I don't have a pillow, but I can give you a head." Poisonous Dragon Number 1's arrogant laughter had just ended when an indifferent voice rang in his ears. Poisonous Dragon Number 1 turned his head hurriedly. Bang! A bloody head rolled directly to Poisonous Dragon Number 1's feet. Ka ka ka! Lowering his head to look at the bloody head at his feet, Poisonous Dragon Number 1 could not help but clench his fists tightly, making cracking sounds. It was obvious that the head under Poisonous Dragon Number 1's feet belonged to none other than Poisonous Dragon Number 2. "You have angered me." Taking a deep breath, Poisonous Dragon Number 1 raised his head and looked at Ningyu, who was walking straight towards him. He said coldly, "There is only one ending for those who provoke me." At this point, Poisonous Dragon Number 1 paused for a moment before continuing. "Die." The instant the word "die" was uttered, the Poisonous Dragon Number 1 rose from the ground and charged at Ningyu at an extremely frightening speed. It could be seen that Poisonous Dragon Number 1 was getting serious. Shio! However, before Poisonous Dragon Number 1 could reach Ningyu, the eight-legged monster beast blocked Poisonous Dragon Number 1's path with the Origin Creation Divine Staff. The meaning of the eight-legged beast was very clear. He wanted to help Ningyu deal with Poisonous Dragon Number 1. "Can you stop me?" Faced with the eight-legged monster beast's obstruction, Poisonous Dragon Number 1 obviously did not take it to heart. He flicked his sleeves, and a flying sword appeared in his hand. The flying sword in Poisonous Dragon Number 1's hand was silvery white and emitted a powerful aura. A peak heavenly treasure. The silvery white flying sword had reached the level of a peak heavenly treasure. Ding! In the blink of an eye, the Origin Creation Divine Staff collided with the silvery white flying sword. A crisp sound was heard, and then the Origin Creation Divine Staff was sent flying. Repelling the Origin Creation Divine Staff was not Poisonous Dragon Number 1's goal. Shio! He held the silvery white flying sword and chased after it. In the blink of an eye, poisonous dragon number 1 arrived, next to the 8-legged monster. Uft! Poisonous dragon number 1 stabbed with his sword. This sword was extremely fast, so fast that the 8-legged monster had no time to react. Fortunately, at the most critical moment, the 8-legged monster instinctively leaned to the side. Otherwise, poisonous dragon number 1's sword alone was enough to kill the 8-legged monster. However, even so, the 8-legged monster's arm was still pierced, and it fell straight to the ground like a kite with a broken string. It's your turn. After casually defeating the 8-legged demonic beast, the poisonous dragon number 1 turned around and charged at Ningyu. Poisonous dragon number 1 knew what was more important, and he would not waste time on the 8-legged monster. After all, his main target was Ningyu. As long as he could capture Ningyu alive, it would be meaningless to kill the 8-legged monster. No wonder he had the upper hand against the Origin Creation Divine Staff. Looking at poisonous dragon number 1, which kept charging at him, Ningyu's face was slightly solemn. At that moment, most of Ningyu's attention was on the silvery white flying sword, and Ningyu ignored poisonous dragon number 1. No matter how strong poisonous dragon number 1 was, he was just an expert with 8 heaven immortal laws. However, the silvery white flying sword was different. Not only was it a peak heavenly treasure, but it also had several heaven immortal laws. Red Fiend. Ningyu began to contact the Red Fiend in the Red Fiend sword. If the Red Fiend sword devours the silvery white flying sword, will it be able to advance to a real heavenly treasure? In fact, Ningyu did not take poisonous dragon number 1 seriously at all. As for poisonous dragon number 1, as long as he used the Essence Creation Divine Staff, he could easily kill it. The 8-legged monster was no match for poisonous dragon number 1 even with the Origin Creation Divine Staff, because it could not unleash the true power of the Origin Creation Divine Staff. In other words, in the hands of the 8-legged monster, the Origin Creation Divine Staff was just an ordinary Dharma treasure. It was not even a peak heavenly treasure. However, once the Origin Creation Divine Staff fell into Ningyu's hands, it would become a terrifying Dharma treasure that everyone would be terrified of. Sure. Red Fiend's reply was concise and to the point. During this period of time, Red Fiend had been trying to increase the level of the Red Fiend sword. At the same time, he kept asking Ningyu to help him find high-level Dharma treasures. However, high-level Dharma treasures were not that easy to find. In order for the Red Fiend sword to advance to a real heavenly treasure, it had to devour at least one heavenly treasure. That's enough for me. Ningyu's lips curled up slightly, and he immediately grabbed the air with his right hand. Whoosh! In an instant, the Origin Creation Divine Staff tore the air and appeared in his hand. With the Origin Creation Divine Staff in hand, Ningyu's blood was boiling. Poisonous dragon number 1, ever since you chose to capture the Dark Emperor, you've already died. Ningyu was expressionless as he charged forward with the Origin Creation Divine Staff. Boom! In the process of charging forward, an extremely terrifying aura was emitted from the Origin Creation Divine Staff. What? Poisonous dragon number 1 felt fear for the first time when he felt the terrifying aura emanating from the Origin Creation Divine Staff. That's right, it was fear. A peak Dharma treasure. Chapter 2020. Damn it! Why did I encounter a pinnacle mystic treasure? Poisonous dragon number 1 was so angry that he wanted to curse. If he had known that the Essence Creation Divine Staff was a pinnacle mystic treasure, why would he have stayed? He would have taken the silver flying sword and fled. Now the Essence Creation Divine Staff had revealed its fangs in Ningyu's hands. Poisonous dragon number 1 was dumbfounded. Poisonous dragon number 1 did not have the guts to go against a pinnacle mystic treasure. No. Suddenly, poisonous dragon number 1 seemed to have discovered something, and his face was instantly filled with surprise. Ha 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 ha. Throwing his head back and laughing, Poisonous Dragon number 1 said sinisterly, Ningyu, don't play tricks in front of me. Do you think you can control a pinnacle mystic treasure? You don't even have a single sky immortal law. How much power can a pinnacle mystic treasure exert in your hands? Today, not only will I capture you alive, I will also snatch the essence creation divine staff. A pinnacle mystic treasure. I believe immortal Shui. Do a look at me differently, ha ha, it had to be said. Poisonous Dragon number 1 had a beautiful dream. However, there was a saying that dreams were beautiful, but reality was cruel. Reality was mercilessly destroying Poisonous Dragon number 1. Die. Ning, you did not stop him. He injected his Yuan Qi into the essence creation divine staff and smashed it towards Poisonous Dragon number 1's head. Insignificant skill. Poisonous Dragon number 1 smiled and placed the silver flying sword in front of him. Ding! The two collided and a crisp sound was heard. Indeed, a silver spear wax head. Nice to look at, but useless. Poisonous Dragon number 1 stood where he was and looked at Ningyu, who had retreated a few steps. He said disdainfully, I advise you to surrender obediently, or I will make your life a living hell. Before Poisonous Dragon number 1 could finish his mocking words, he felt something sweet in his throat. In an instant, he spat out a mouthful of blood. At the same time, the intense pain from his hand made Poisonous Dragon number 1 have no choice but to throw away the silver flying sword in his hand. Swoosh! Poisonous Dragon number 1 had just thrown away the silver flying sword when a red cold light rushed towards him. Before he could react, the silver flying sword was snatched away. Damn it! Poisonous Dragon number 1 watched helplessly as the silver-white flying sword disappeared. He could not help but curse. Yes, Poisonous Dragon number 1's body had suffered great damage. The best way to describe it was to say that it was too horrible to look at. At that moment, Ningyu landed in front of Poisonous Dragon number 1 with the essence creation divine staff. I suddenly changed my mind. Ningyu said calmly, Tell me what your master's cultivation level is and where he is right now. Then I can spare your life and let you end up like the five-fingered immortal. Poisonous Dragon no. One did not directly answer Yu's question. Instead, he turned to look at Five-Fingered Immortal, who was sweating profusely. When he saw Five-Fingered Immortal's somewhat flustered appearance, Poisonous Dragon number 1 felt very disgruntled. He didn't want to end up like the five-fingered deity, becoming Ningyu's puppet and losing his freedom. I can feign ignorance for now, then slowly contact immortal blood poison. Poisonous Dragon number 1 thought to himself. At the thought of this, Poisonous Dragon number 1 organized his thoughts and said to Ningyu, when immortal blood poison was in the high-level plane, he was at the mid-stage, heavenly immortal stage. If I'm not wrong, he should be in the Great Dao Valley now. Great Dao Valley? Ningyu was slightly taken aback. Then he asked again, Do you know how many experts like Blood Poison Immortal there are in the Myriad Demon Ridge? Before entering the Myriad Demon Ridge, Ningyu had already learned some secrets from Divine Sun Qingquan and the others. High-level planes, Sacred Divine Palace, Primeval Demon Sect, Fallen Spirit Sect, and other powerful forces were about to descend. And the way they would descend was through the teleportation array in the Myriad Demon Ridge. Now that you couldn't even see the teleportation array, didn't that mean that the Sacred Divine Palace and the other powerful forces had already sent super experts down? That's right. Given Ningyu's strength, he wasn't afraid of those experts. But what about Zhao Rui? After all, he hadn't found Zhao Rui yet. Wouldn't it be very dangerous if Zhao Rui was captured by some small fry? Therefore, Ningyu wanted to know more about the specific situation in the Myriad Demon Ridge. Blood Poison Immortal is a mid-stage heaven immortal expert. Unless those powerful sect masters from Sacred Divine Palace descend, Blood Poison Immortal is the absolute overlord of the Myriad Demon Ridge. Poisonous Dragon number 1 snorted coldly. Clearly, poisonous dragon number 1 didn't understand the situation before him. Very well, you can go and die now. Ningyu shrugged his shoulders. He didn't comment on poisonous dragon number 1's reply. Kid, you didn't keep your word. Poisonous dragon number 1 bellowed as he looked at Ningyu, who was gradually approaching him. In the face of death, poisonous dragon number 1 was also very afraid. It's not that I didn't keep my word, but you secretly informed Blood Poison Immortal. Ningyu shook his head slowly and said, Since you informed Blood Poison Immortal, then you have to take responsibility for your stupid actions. As he spoke, the Essence Creation Divine Staff in Ningyu's hand smashed down fiercely. Crack! The Essence Creation Divine Staff and Poisonous Dragon number 1's head collided intimately. A crisp cracking sound rang out. Then, Poisonous Dragon number 1's head exploded on the spot. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere. At this moment, one of Blood Poison Immortal's generals, Poisonous Dragon number 1, died in battle. Swish! The moment Poisonous Dragon number 1 died, the Red Fiend controlled the Red Fiend sword to quickly sweep out and snatch away Poisonous Dragon number 1's primordial spirit. Ningyu only used the Essence Creation Divine Staff to destroy Poisonous Dragon number 1's body. He didn't destroy his primordial spirit. Actually, Ningyu's method was very obvious. He wanted to leave Poisonous Dragon number 1's primordial spirit to the Red Fiend so that he could better improve the quality of the Red Fiend sword. Uft! Uft! Just as Ningyu finished off Poisonous Dragon number 1, the remaining Poisonous Dragon guards died tragically at the hands of the 8-legged demonic beast. Although the 8-legged demonic beast couldn't fight against Poisonous Dragon number 1, it still had the absolute upper hand against ordinary poisonous dragon guards. All of these people deserved to die. After killing the remaining poisonous dragon guards, the 8-legged demonic beast wasn't satisfied. It stomped on them a few more times. Seeing this, Ningyu was speechless. The 8-legged demonic beast's current appearance was that of a middle-aged man, but his actions, no matter how you looked at it, made him seem like a child. Ningyu, what should we do now? After stomping on the poisonous dragon guards a few times, the 8-legged demonic beast looked at Ningyu and asked, Are we going to the Great Dao Valley or somewhere else? We're not going anywhere. We're staying here. Ningyu shook his head and said, Staying here? The 8-legged demonic beast was taken aback. He didn't know what Ningyu was planning. After all, staying here was not the wisest choice. Recuperate for a while. Ningyu smiled at the 8-legged demonic beast and didn't expose him. Then he walked straight towards the Dark Emperor and the human devil. Actually, there was something that Ningyu didn't tell the 8-legged demonic beast. Just now, in the instant before Noxious Dragon 1 had died in battle, he had secretly notified his master, Immortal Blood Poison. In other words, it was highly likely that Immortal Blood Poison would come over soon. The reason why Ningyu didn't tell the 8-legged demonic beast was because he was considerate of it. After all, Immortal Blood Poison wasn't like Poisonous Dragon number 1. When he was in a high-level plane, he was already a mid-stage, heavenly immortal expert. Chapter 2021. How much longer? Ningyu asked as he looked at the sweating, 5-fingered immortal. Ever since Ningyu had appeared in this area, the 5-fingered immortal had been busy treating Human Demon and Ning Lu. After all, Ningyu had given the 5-fingered immortal an ultimatum. Cure Ning Lu and Human Demon or die. In order to survive, the 5-fingered immortal didn't dare to be careless. When he saw Ningyu's gloomy expression, the 5-fingered immortal wiped the sweat off his forehead and said hurriedly, Human Demon and Ning Lu's injuries are a little serious. I'll ask you one last time. How much longer? Ningyu waved his hand and interrupted the 5-fingered immortal. Although Ningyu's tone had become very calm, the 5-fingered immortal knew that Ningyu was angry. If his answer didn't satisfy Ningyu, then Ningyu might very well fulfill his promise and kill him. Half an hour. The five-fingered immortal bit his lips and gave an accurate number. Half an hour? Ningyu frowned slightly, his expression turning somewhat grave. To be honest, Ningyu wasn't too sure when the blood poison immortal would arrive. If he couldn't cure the human demon and Ninglu before the blood poison immortal arrived, then things would become very bad. I'll give you the last half an hour. After saying that, Ningyu walked over to the Dark Emperor. No matter what, as long as he could cure the human demon and Ninglu, everything was fine. If the five-fingered immortal couldn't cure the human demon and Ninglu in the allotted time, then unfortunately, Ningyu would definitely kill him. Thus, the five-fingered immortal instantly felt a lot more courage on his shoulders. How much longer can you last? Asked Ningyu as he walked over to the Dark Emperor and patted his head. The Dark Emperor rolled his eyes at Ningyu and said, I'm fine. Apart from not being able to use my essence, I eat well and sleep well. Don't worry, I'll find a way to remove the seal on your body. Ningyu comforted. Buzz. However, before Ningyu could finish his words, his expression changed slightly. The surrounding space suddenly caved in, and a group of 5 cultivators appeared around Ningyu, vaguely surrounding Ningyu. Come with me. The leader of the group was a burly man dressed in a black robe and a black bamboo hat. His face could not be seen clearly. 10 celestial immortal laws. Ningyu did not care about what the black-robed cultivator was saying. What he was concerned about was the black-robed cultivator's cultivation. 10 celestial immortal laws. Previously, Poisonous Dragon number 1 only had 8 celestial immortal laws. In a sense, an expert with 10 celestial immortal laws was no different from a real celestial immortal in other aspects, apart from not having passed the celestial tribulation. In fact, an expert with 10 celestial immortal laws was no weaker than an ordinary early-stage celestial immortal. Brat, are you courting death? Seeing that Ningyu did not answer the black-robed cultivator's words, the other middle-aged man took a step forward. His aura suddenly burst out and pressed against Ningyu. Noisy. Ningyu glanced at the middle-aged man, then injected his essence chi into the origin, creating divine staff, and smashed it down. Rumble. Ningyu's move seemed ordinary, but it actually contained an extremely terrifying power. 10% of his strength. 20% of the origin creating divine staff strength was equivalent to a full force attack from a mid-stage celestial immortal expert. 10% of his strength was enough to kill the middle-aged man without a problem. After all, the middle-aged man was different from the black-robed cultivator. He only had 6 celestial immortal laws. Uft. The middle-aged man's pupils constricted. Before he could block it, his body flew out and fell heavily to the ground. Fresh blood spurted out of his mouth, and his aura became weaker and weaker. Not long after, the middle-aged man's eyes rolled back and he died on the spot. Whoosh! The middle-aged man's death caused the other 3 cultivators' expressions to change. One should know that the 3 of them were on par with the middle-aged man in terms of strength. Now that the middle-aged man was killed in an instant without any chance to fight back, it was obvious that the 3 of them would end up the same as Ningyu. Swoosh! Thinking of this, the 3 of them shifted their gazes to the black-robed cultivator. Now, they could only pin their hopes on the black-robed cultivator. Before I came, Immortal Shui Du told me that Ningyu is not simple. I shouldn't underestimate him. I didn't believe it before, but now I finally believe it. The black-robed immortal did not take the middle-aged man's death to heart. He sorted out his thoughts, then looked at Ningyu and said, Immortal Shui Du is in the Great Dao Valley. He just wants to see you. It was obvious that the black-robed cultivator's attitude toward Ningyu had taken a 180-degree turn. His previous underestimation of Su Mo had completely vanished. It was no wonder. The fact that Ningyu could kill the middle-aged man in an instant meant that he could fight the black-robed cultivator head-on. The black-robed cultivator's mission was the same as Poisonous Dragon number 1's. He was to bring Ningyu to the great Dao Valley and bring him to Immortal Shui. The black-robed cultivator was not as stupid as poisonous dragon number 1. In his opinion, no matter what method he used, as long as he could bring Ningyu to the great Dao Valley, it would be a success. Give me a reason. Ning Yu held the essence creation divine staff in his hand and looked at the black-robed cultivator with interest. Ning Yu had thought that after poisonous dragon number 1 informed Immortal Shui Du, Immortal Shui Du would come personally. Unexpectedly, it was not Immortal Shui Du who came, but a black-robed cultivator. If the black-robed cultivator had the same attitude as poisonous dragon number 1, Ning Yu did not mind killing him. However, the black-robed cultivator was very respectful. Ning Yu decided not to kill him for the time being. He wanted to see if he could get more useful information from him. Immortal Shui Du can display the battle power of a mid-stage heaven immortal. The black-robed cultivator said proudly. Swoosh! Upon hearing this, Ning Yu's body shook. Although Immortal Shui Du was a mid-stage heaven immortal in a high-level plane, this was not a high-level plane. This was the 10,000 Demon Ridge. To be able to display the battle power of a mid-stage heaven immortal here was enough to show how powerful Immortal Shui Du was. The 10,000 Demon Ridge has changed. Now, the 10,000 Demon Ridge is a region that connects the immortal spirit realm and high-level planes. In other words, the cultivation level of a high-level plane is the same in the 10,000 Demon Ridge. Perhaps sensing Ning Yu's doubts, the black-robed cultivator explained. I see. Ning Yu frowned slightly and fell into deep thought. If what the black-robed cultivator said was true, then his status in the 10,000 Demon Ridge would drop significantly. Using the essence creation divine staff, he could go against a mid-stage heaven immortal. But who knew how many mid-stage heaven immortal martial artists there were in the 10,000 Demon Ridge? Were there late-stage heaven immortal martial artists? Once those martial artists were no longer restrained by the plane barrier, the battle power they could display would be extremely shocking. Ning Yu, bad news. Chapter 2022. Swish. The words that reached his ears caused Ning Yu's expression to change dramatically. Ning Yu pushed off the ground and rushed out. The reason why Ning Yu was so anxious was because the martial practitioner who had spoken was none other than the five-fingered immortal. Ning Yu had just given the five-fingered immortal a death order to cure Ning Lu and the human demon in half an hour. But now, only a few minutes had passed, and the five-fingered immortal was already calling for help. How could Ning Yu not be shocked? Shock was one thing, but Ning Yu was worried about Ning Lu and the human demon's safety. What's going on? Ning Yu instantly appeared in front of the five-fingered immortal. There's a terrifying energy inside your friend's body that's on the verge of bursting out. The five-fingered immortal didn't dare tarry. He hastily pointed at the human demon and explained. Ning Yu's brows rose as he looked at the human demon. Hiss! Ning Yu sucked in a breath of cold air when he took a closer look. Inside the human devil's body, a terrifying energy was wreaking havoc in his 5 viscera and 6 bowels. It was obvious. If he couldn't neutralize this energy in time, the human demon's life would be in danger. At best, he would be crippled. At worst, he would explode and die on the spot. What kind of trouble is he in? Ning Yu thought for a moment when he saw the human demon's slightly malevolent expression. In the end, he chose to ask about Renmo's current situation through soul transmission. Ning Yu wasn't a fool. He could see that although the human demon's expression was malevolent, the human demon seemed to be excited behind it. That's right, excited. It was as if the human demon had purposefully used the energy inside his body. The myriad demon ridge has undergone a huge change. As long as I can break the seal in my body, I'll be able to display my peak strength. The human demon didn't hide anything from Ning Yu. Help me break the seal in my body. I want to recover my peak strength today. Peak strength? Ning Yu's expression changed. Ning Yu had some understanding of the demonic human strength. In a higher plane, a human devil would at least be a mid-stage heaven immortal. If the human devil could recover to its peak, it would be extremely good for Ning Yu. How can I help you? Ning Yu turned his head to look at the black-robed cultivator. Then he turned back to the human demon and sent a soul message. Obviously, Ning Yu wanted to silence them. Ning Yu's action was to warn the black-robed cultivator not to act rashly. On the other hand, he was asking how much longer the human demon could last. If the human demon could last long enough, Ning Yu did not mind getting rid of the black-robed martial artist, this ticking time bomb. Don't complicate matters. When you're helping me, you won't be able to display even the tiniest bit of your strength. The entire process will take about 15 minutes. Just do as I say. The demonic human replied with a soul message. Next, Ning Yu sat cross-legged in front of the human demon and began to move according to its instructions. Is he trying to tempt me? Seeing Ning Yu and the human demon's actions, the black-robe cultivator was dumbfounded. Logically speaking, with the terrifying strength Ning Yu had just displayed, there was no reason for him to be tempted. If Ning Yu was willing, he would definitely not be able to get a good result. The black-robed cultivator shook his head, rejecting this thought. Let's wait and see. The black-robed cultivator thought for a moment and decided to wait and see. In any case, the only cultivator here that he was wary of was Ning Yu himself. As for the others, such as the Dark Emperor, Ning Lu, and the 8-legged demonic beast, he did not care about them at all. After all, in a higher plane, he was the one closest to an early stage heaven immortal. 10 sky immortal laws. In a higher plane, 10 sky immortal laws was the limit. In other words, without reaching the early stage heaven immortal realm, one could only have 10 sky immortal laws. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Time was ticking away. In the blink of an eye, 10 minutes had passed. Seeing that Ning Yu and the human demon were still sitting on the same spot, not doing anything, the black-robed cultivator's mind started to become active. Logically speaking, Ning Yu had no reason to be like this. After thinking about it, the black-robed cultivator decided to ask. He got up and walked towards Ning Yu step by step. When he was 30 feet away from Ning Yu, he stopped. Ning Yu, I came with the greatest sincerity to invite you. The black-robed cultivator cupped his fists towards Ning Yu and said, I'm afraid that immortal blood poison will blame me for delaying the time. Ning Yu did not reply. In fact, he did not even look at the black-robed cultivator. The black-robed cultivator's expression was a little ugly, but when he thought of Ning Yu's powerful strength, the black-robed cultivator said patiently, Immortal blood poison is a mid-stage heaven immortal expert. Once he blames me, even I won't be able to bear the consequences. Ning Yu still did not reply. Swish! This time, the black-robed cultivator's expression completely darkened. He prided himself on his sincerity, but who would have thought that Ning Yu would not care about him at all? Under such circumstances, how could he not be angry? The 3 of you go invite Ning Yu over. The black-robed cultivator's heart stirred as he instructed the other 3 cultivators. Invite Ning Yu? The other 3 cultivators were dumbfounded. Wasn't the black-robed cultivator clearly trying to scam them? When the cultivator who provoked Ning Yu was killed, they had seen it clearly. Now that they were asked to provoke Ning Yu, they felt extremely conflicted. On one hand, they did not want to offend Ning Yu. On the other hand, they did not want to offend the black-robed cultivator and immortal blood poison. After all, immortal blood poison was a mid-stage heaven immortal expert. Any cultivator who offended immortal blood poison would not have a good ending. The lightest punishment would be being refined into a puppet. What are you still standing there for? The black-robed cultivator stared coldly at the few cultivators and said in a deep voice, If I tell you to go, you have to go. The black-robed cultivator was furious. Strictly speaking, these 3 cultivators were his subordinates. Whatever he told them to do, the 3 cultivators had to do. Now that the 3 cultivators were acting very hesitant, it made the black-robed cultivator furious. If I die, then I die. The 3 cultivators looked at each other and immediately made up their minds, charging towards Ningyu in unison. Swish, swish, swish. The 3 of them were very fast, so fast that they arrived in front of Ningyu in the blink of an eye. Bang, bang, bang. Unknowingly, when the 8-legged demonic beast had already appeared beside Ningyu, he threw out 3 punches in a row, and each punch landed precisely on the head of a cultivator. The 8-legged demonic beast's self-healing ability was very strong. Although it was injured just now, after 10 minutes of recuperation, it had already recovered completely. With the 8-legged demonic beast's strength, it did not need to spend too much effort to deal with 3 experts who only had 6 heaven immortal laws. Therefore, 3 crisp sounds rang out. The 3 cultivators instantly fell to the ground and had intimate contact with the ground. You. Chapter 2023. The 8-legged demon beast lifted its head to look at the black-robed martial artist without saying a word. However, the 8-legged demon beast's action had already made his stance clear. If he wanted to kill Ningyu, he would have to get past him first. At this moment, no matter how stupid the 8-legged demon beast was, it could tell that Ningyu was helping the human devil at a crucial moment. At this moment, Ningyu and the human devil couldn't be disturbed in the slightest. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Since you're seeking death, don't blame me. The black-robed martial artist looked at the 8-legged demon beast coldly. He stomped his feet on the ground and dashed out instantly. Chi! The black-robed martial artist's speed was so fast that the friction between him and the air made a hissing sound. Moreover, the black-robed martial artist directly entered the void, causing the 8-legged demon beast to be unable to track him. Swoosh! Not too long had passed. In just 0.1 seconds, the black-robed martial artist appeared in front of the 8-legged demon beast. Remember this in your next life. The black-robed martial artist clenched his right fist and punched at the 8-legged demon beast. However, it was apparent the 8-legged demon beast did not take the black-robed martial artist's fatal punch seriously. It stood still and did not move at all. I can't believe it. The black-robed martial artist's expression changed slightly when he saw the 8-legged demon beast did not move. In fact, the black-robed martial artist was only pretending to attack the 8-legged demon beast. His real goal was to lure the 8-legged demon beast away so he could attack Ningyu. However, it seemed like his plan had gone down the drain. What other moves do you have? Use them all at once. The 8-legged demon beast's eyes gleamed coldly as it dispersed the black-robed martial artist in front of it. Then it stared at the void in front of it and said calmly, "Buzz." As soon as the 8-legged demon beast finished speaking, the void trembled, and the black-robed martial artist appeared. Initially, I wanted to spare your worthless life, but you were so eager to die. The black-robed martial artist looked at the 8-legged demon beast coldly. As soon as the word die left his mouth, he suddenly dashed out. This time, the black-robed martial artist used his true form. Actually, it was no wonder that the black-robed martial artist would go all out. On one hand, the 8-legged demonic beast was indeed powerful. If he used his doppelganger, he would not be a match for it at all. On the other hand, he discovered that the human demon's aura was soaring rapidly. In addition, he could faintly sense an aura from the human devil that only immortal blood poison could sense. What did this mean? Clearly, it was extremely likely that the human devil was like immortal blood poison, a mid-stage sky immortal expert. So, no matter what, the black-robed cultivator made up his mind. He had to take advantage of the fact that the human demon had not recovered to his peak state to strangle him in the cradle. Otherwise, Even immortal Shue-Du, who was far away in the Great Tao Valley, might meet with a mishap, much less be killed. Humph! It's not good to be so firm in your words. The eight-legged monster snorted coldly and shook his wrist. The origin creating divine stick appeared in his hand. During the gap, just now, the eight-legged monster beast had quietly communicated with Ningyu and asked for the essence creation divine staff. Speaking of the essence creation divine staff, the eight-legged monster actually felt very lucky. Fortunately, Ningyu could still divide his attention to communicate with him. Otherwise, he would not have been able to obtain the essence creation divine staff. However, Ningyu did not give the essence creation divine staff to the eight-legged monster for nothing. Ningyu had given the eight-legged monster a difficult task. No matter what, he had to block the black-robed martial artist for 3 minutes. For this, Ningyu did not hesitate to use his blood essence to slightly stimulate the power of the essence creation divine staff. Even so, the eight-legged monster was not confident that he could block the black-robed martial artist for 3 minutes. After all, the black-robed martial artist had 10 sky immortal laws, while the eight-legged monster only had 8. Although there was only a difference of 2 sky immortal laws, it was this difference that caused the difference in strength between the eight-legged monster and the black-robed martial artist to double. Swoosh! At this moment, the black-robed martial artist arrived in front of the eight-legged monster. The black-robed martial artist's fists carried a violent yuan qi wind as he punched the eight-legged monster's head. Ding! 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 At this critical moment, the eight-legged monster hurriedly placed the essence creation divine staff in front of his head. A series of crisp sounds could be heard. The eight-legged monster's face darkened to the extreme as he felt the tearing pain from his perlicue. Endure! Although he really wanted to retreat, the eight-legged monster still gritted his teeth and persevered. The eight-legged monster knew that he could not retreat. As long as he retreated, even half a step, Ningyu might be killed by the black-robed martial artist. 2 more minutes. The eight-legged monster waved the essence creation divine staff in his hand repeatedly while secretly counting the time. As long as he could drag it out for 3 minutes, he would be the winner. Let's see how long you can block me. Blood-devouring fist. The black-robed martial artist did not intend to give up. He did not hesitate to burn his blood essence to display his trump card. Blood-devouring fist. The so-called blood-devouring fist was a peak sage-level martial art technique. Block it. The eight-legged monster's face was gloomy. He did not care what martial art technique the black-robed martial artist was using. In short, he only had one task, which was to stand in front of Ningyu for 3 minutes. Uft! As it turned out, although the eight-legged monster had the essence creation divine staff, he was still no match for the black-robed martial artist. After all, the eight-legged monster could not display even 10% of the essence creation divine staff's power. Under such circumstances, the eight-legged monster was naturally bombarded by the black-robed martial artist's fist, causing him to vomit blood. He's quite stubborn. The black-robed martial artist's face was extremely ugly. Even an ordinary early-stage heaven immortal martial artist might not be able to block his attack with all his might. He did not expect that the middle-aged man in front of him could actually block it. Looks like I can only use that move. The black-robed martial artist glanced at Ningyu and the human demon behind the eight-legged monster. Then he took a deep breath and took out a storage bag. Rip! The black-robed martial artist exerted a little force in his right hand and tore the storage bag open. Then the black-robed martial artist reached into the storage bag and took out a bloody heart. That's right. The thing that the black-robed martial artist took out from the storage bag was a heart. To be precise, it was the heart of a mid-stage heaven immortal martial artist. What happened next made the eight-legged monster's mouth slightly open, and his face was filled with disbelief. He saw the black-robed martial artist suddenly insert his left hand into the position of his own heart and pull it out. Then the black-robed martial artist placed the mid-stage heaven immortal heart in his right hand where his own heart was. The eight-legged monster was dumbfounded. Isn't this 2F** king ridiculous? He had seen people exchange other things, but this was the first time he saw someone exchange their heart. Ordinary martial artists would die instantly once their heart left their body. However, not only did the black-robed martial artist not die, but he also exchanged his heart for a mid-stage heaven immortal heart. What was even more ridiculous was that the black-robed martial artist even swallowed his own heart in front of the eight-legged monster's horrified gaze. Chapter 2024. Ruthless, ruthless, unparalleled ruthless. The eight-legged monster was dumbfounded, looking at the blood flowing out of the black-robed martial artist's mouth. The eight-legged monster felt his scalp go numb, rumble. However, what made the eight-legged monster's scalp go numb was yet to come. After replacing the heart, the black-robed martial artist's aura rose sharply. In a short period of time, he made great progress and reached the terrifying early-stage sky immortal realm. The black-robed martial artist's early-stage sky immortal realm was different from those martial artists who had passed the sky immortal tribulation. He was purely relying on his heart to maintain himself. In other words, as long as his heart was destroyed, he would lose his source of energy and die on the spot. You forced me to use this move. In order to repay you, I've decided to send you to hell. The black-robed martial artist's expression was cold as he dashed out. The black-robed martial artist hated the eight-legged monster very much. If the monster hadn't spoiled his plans, he wouldn't have needed to replace his heart at all. His mid-stage sky immortal realm heart was prepared for the sky immortal tribulation. Originally, he planned to replace his heart during the sky immortal tribulation and reach the mid-stage sky immortal realm in one go. But now, replacing his heart in advance made it almost impossible for him to reach the mid-stage sky immortal realm during the sky immortal tribulation. There was even a possibility that he would fail. After all, his heart belonged to a mid-stage sky immortal realm martial artist. During the sky immortal tribulation, the heavenly tribulation might judge him as a powerful genius and send down even more dangerous tribulation clouds. One last minute. Although he was shocked, the eight-legged monster didn't lose his mind. There was only 1 minute left until the 3 minutes Ningyu requested. 1 minute might not be too long, but it might be very difficult for the eight-legged monster to survive. After the black-robed martial artist's heart was replaced, his strength had a qualitative breakthrough. He was fearless even when facing an early-stage sky immortal realm martial artist, let alone the monster. Die. Perhaps seeing that the human demon was about to recover, the black-robed martial artist used all his strength. Terrifying energy gathered in his right fist and punched at the eight-legged monster. Ding! A crisp sound rang out. The eight-legged monster felt his hand shake. Then the Origin Creation Divine staff flew out of his hand and toward the back. Damn it, am I really going to die here? The eight-legged monster cursed, his face full of unwillingness. Bang! As the eight-legged monster beast roared in anger, the black-robed cultivator's fist smashed into its chest. Fortunately, the eight-legged demonic beast had tilted its body slightly at the critical moment. Otherwise, the black-robed cultivator's punch would have been enough to kill it. But even so, the eight-legged demonic beast had lost its fighting strength. Its body was sent flying and heavily fell to the ground. Ningyu, give me your life. After knocking back the eight-legged demonic beast, the black-robed cultivator immediately attacked Ningyu, trying to make Ningyu submit. You want to hurt Ningyu in front of me? Aren't you being too arrogant? An indifferent voice rang out in the area. Humph! None of the people I want to kill can live. No, you. The black-robed cultivator snorted coldly. Just as he was about to mock Shao Chen, he seemed to have discovered something horrifying. He froze on the spot. This is impossible. The black-robed cultivator's face was filled with horror. He even stomped on the ground and retreated repeatedly. Since you're here, stay and rest for a while. Facing the black-robed cultivator, the human demon slowly stood up and casually waved his right hand. Swish! It seemed like the human demon had casually waved his hand, but in reality it was not. A formless cold light flew out from the human demon's sleeve. This cold light was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of the black-robed cultivator, forcing him to not dare to act rashly. The black-robed cultivator knew that if the human demon wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as blowing off dust. This was because he sensed an aura from the human demon that he had only sensed from immortal blood poison. Mid-sky immortal stage. The human demon's current cultivation base had completely recovered to its peak state. In fact, back in the higher planes, the human demon's cultivation base was already at the mid-sky immortal stage. Now that he had recovered to the mid-sky immortal stage, he naturally wanted to use the black-robed cultivator to establish his might. Swish! In a flash, the human demon arrived in front of the black-robed cultivator. He said lightly, "You want to kill Ningyu?" "I don't want to kill him." The black-robed cultivator was not simple. He quickly calmed down and replied. The black-robed cultivator thought for a moment. Although the human demon was a mid-sky immortal stage expert, his backer was not simple. Immortal blood poison was no ordinary mid-sky immortal stage expert. In the past, immortal blood poison had single-handedly wreaked havoc in a mid-sky domain and killed several sky immortal stage experts. Although they were both mid-sky immortals, the black-robed cultivator didn't think that the human demon was stronger than immortal blood poison. Thus, the black-robed cultivator felt that he had the confidence and qualifications to face the human demon head-on. "Ningyu," he said that he doesn't want to kill you. The human demon's reaction was a little out of the black-robed cultivator's expectations. He turned back to look at Ningyu. "In my opinion, it's better to squash enmity than keep it alive. Why don't you turn weapons of war into gifts of jade and silk? All right, I'll listen to you." Surprisingly, Ningyu didn't refute the human demon's words. "What are you trying to do?" The black-robed cultivator was a little confused. He really couldn't understand why Ningyu and the human demon didn't seem to want to be enemies with him. Could it be that they knew of immortal blood poison's reputation? "Don't worry. As long as you come with me to the Great Dao Valley, I will introduce you to immortal blood poison." Thinking of this, the black-robed cultivator puffed out his chest and said proudly. At this moment, the black-robed cultivator appeared very magnanimous. He even wanted to fight for more benefits for Ningyu and the human demon. "I'm very sorry." Ningyu shrugged at the black-robed cultivator. "When I said to turn weapons of war into gifts of jade and silk, that's under the premise that you submit to me. Perhaps you don't know what the word submit means. Let me explain it to you. Submit means that you kneel down, kowtow to me a few times, and become my dog." Boom! When Ningyu said this, the black-robed cultivator's mind went blank, and he became extremely angry. This was too much. The black-robed cultivator looked coldly at Ningyu and said fiercely, "Offending me is equivalent to offending immortal blood poison, and anyone who offends immortal blood poison is destined to have a bad end." "Sorry, I don't like that immortal blood poison." Ningyu pursed his lips. "I'll give you one last chance. Kneel down and kowtow to me a few times. At the same time, relax your mind or die. Rumble." As soon as the word die was said, Ningyu activated the origin creating divine staff. A terrifying aura emanated from the staff. Although Ningyu had only helped the human demon recover his cultivation, Ningyu had gained many benefits. The human demon injected a terrifying energy into Ningyu's body, and Ningyu injected it into the origin creating divine staff. Chapter 2025. 20% of the power of the essence creating divine staff could allow Ningyu to fight against a middle stage heaven immortal. One could imagine that 25% of the power of the essence creating divine staff was enough for Ningyu to face a peak middle stage heaven immortal calmly. "You're courting death." The black-robed martial artist's face was extremely gloomy as he was suppressed by the powerful aura. He said fiercely, "Blood poison immortal's power, you will never!" Before he could finish his words, the black-robed martial artist suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and his aura instantly fell to the bottom. Surrender or die. Ningyu took a step forward and placed the essence creating divine staff in front of the black-robed martial artist. Actually, Ningyu did not want the black-robed martial artist to surrender. If the black-robed martial artist was sensible, then Ningyu would consider letting him live and let him be the vanguard. But if the black-robed martial artist was stubborn, Ningyu did not mind getting rid of him. "Kill me if you can. Blood poison immortal will avenge me." The black-robed martial artist looked at Ningyu coldly and roared, "As you wish." Ningyu did not waste time talking to the black-robed martial artist. He waved the essence creating divine staff in his hand and smashed it on the black-robed martial artist's neck. Crack! A crisp sound was heard. Then the black-robed martial artist's eyes widened and his whole body fell backward. Bang! The sound of a body hitting the ground was heard. The black-robed martial artist's aura seemed to have disappeared, and he became a living dead. Although he had used the essence creating divine staff to break the black-robed martial artist's neck, Ningyu did not let down his guard. He stared at the black-robed martial artist and then frowned, vaguely feeling that something was wrong. Logically speaking, since the black-robed martial artist's neck was broken, the essence spirit in his body would definitely escape immediately. But looking at the black-robed martial artist's posture, it was obvious that his essence spirit was staying in his body and had no intention of escaping. Boom! At this moment, the black-robed martial artist stomped on the ground and suddenly stood up. Hiss! The black-clad cultivator's actions made the 8-legged demonic beast and the 5-fingered immortal suck in a breath of cold air. He's alive again? The 8-legged demon beast and the 5-fingered immortal revealed looks of horror. Wasn't the black-robed martial artist's vitality too tenacious? Hee, you want to kill me? It won't be that easy. The black-robed martial artist who had been resurrected let out a strange laughter as he stared at Ningyu and said, "Today I'll let you know what a real middle-stage heaven immortal expert is." Rumble. As he spoke, the black-robed cultivator's heart began to spin rapidly. As his heart beat, the aura of the black-robed cultivator soared at a terrifying speed. Early-stage heavenly immortal. Peak early-stage heavenly immortal. Mid-stage heavenly immortal. Peak mid-stage heavenly immortal. In a short period of time, the black-robed cultivator's aura had already soared from its lowest point to its peak. Even Ningyu couldn't help but put on a solemn expression when facing the aura of a peak mid-stage heaven immortal. One had to know that his overall strength was only comparable to a martial artist at the peak mid-stage heaven immortal. How could Ningyu not be shocked when the black-robed martial artist exuded the aura of a peak mid-stage heaven immortal? However, Ningyu didn't feel despair because of this. Even if the black-robed martial artist could exert the strength of a peak mid-stage heaven immortal, Ningyu was still fearless. After all, the Essence Creation Divine Staff was not a decoration. Using the Essence Creation Divine Staff, Ningyu was not afraid of the black-robed martial artist at all. Kill! After his aura soared to the peak mid-stage heaven immortal, the black-robed martial artist locked his eyes on Ningyu and rushed out in a flash. Whoosh! Although the black-robed martial artist could emit the aura of a peak mid-stage heaven immortal, there was actually some inside information that Ningyu and the others did not know. 3 moves. In order to exert the strength of a peak mid-stage heaven immortal, the black-robed martial artist did not hesitate to burn the special heart in his body. The burning of the heart gave the black-robed martial artist a huge opportunity. This was because burning the heart could allow the black-robed martial artist to have the strength of a peak mid-stage heaven immortal. Of course, there was a limit to this opportunity. The black-robed martial artist could indeed exert super strong strength, but he only had 3 opportunities. In other words, after 3 times, the black-robed martial artist would be beaten back to his original state. At the same time, the black-robed martial artist who had lost his heart was very likely to vanish into thin air. Let's attack together. Feeling the aura emitted by the black-robed martial artist, the human demon and Ning Yu looked at each other and immediately moved together. Even a lion would use its full strength to catch a rabbit, let alone a crazy black-robed martial artist. Rumble, rumble. The human demon recovered to the mid-stage heaven immortal, while Ning Yu could also exert the strength of a mid-stage heaven immortal using the essence creation divine staff. Under such circumstances, even if the black-robed martial artist burned his heart, he was still a little powerless. The first move forced the black-robed martial artist to retreat dozens of feet. Swoosh! The black-robed martial artist was not discouraged and continued to attack, launching the second move. Rumble! Facing the black-robed martial artist's second attack, Ning Yu and the human demon chose to meet force with force. The second move forced the black-robed martial artist to retreat dozens of feet again. Damn it! How is this possible? The black-robed martial artist roared like a madman. He would never have thought that the strength he had obtained by burning his heart would come to nothing in front of Ning Yu and the human demon. Yes, it was nothing. Fight! For the third move, the black-robed martial artist could be said to have used all his strength. After all, this time, if he didn't die, it would be Ning Yu and the human demon. Therefore, this move of the black-robed martial artist was even more powerful, even faintly showing signs of breaking through to the late-stage heaven immortal. To avoid future troubles, Ning Yu and the human demon's expressions became extremely solemn. Originally, they thought that no matter how strong the black-robed martial artist was, how strong could he be? As long as the two of them joined forces, they could easily kill the black-robed martial artist. But now they knew that they were wrong, very wrong. The black-robed martial artist could actually produce such a terrifying attack. If the black-robed cultivator continued, just how powerful would his next attack be? Human Demon Fist. The human demon used his trump card, Human Demon Fist. With the recovery of his cultivation, the power of the Human Demon Fist increased by several times. Origin Creation Divine Staff. Ning Yu shouted in a deep voice, using the Origin Creation Divine Staff without holding back. Bang! Bang! In the blink of an eye, Ning Yu and the black-robed martial artist clashed. In an instant, the black-robed martial artist threw out 2 punches. In the first punch, the black-robed martial artist had the upper hand, while the human demon was at a disadvantage. After all, the human demon, who had recovered to his peak state, was only a mid-stage heaven immortal, while the black-robed martial artist's punch was equivalent to the attack of a late-stage heaven immortal. Under such circumstances, it was not easy for the human demon to persevere. As for the second punch, the black-robed martial artist landed on the Origin Creation Divine Staff. Crack! Relatively speaking, the black-robed martial artist was not so lucky. How hard was the Origin Creation Divine Staff? Chapter 2026. At this moment, the black-robed cultivator's fist broke on the spot. Arg, I can't accept this. The breaking of his fist caused the black-robed cultivator to let out a hysterical roar. After 3 moves, the black-robed cultivator's heart was completely incinerated. The black-robed cultivator was only able to hold on until now because of his special heart. With his heart completely incinerated, the black-robed cultivator would no longer be able to survive. Bang! Just as he roared, the black-robed cultivator's eyes rolled and his body fell backward, dead. To be honest, the way the black-robed cultivator died left Ningyu dumbfounded. Given the black-robed cultivator's combat power, he and the human demon would be in danger if he could hold on for just a little longer. But now the black-robed cultivator had died. Furthermore, he had died a thorough death. 5 Fingers Immortal. Ningyu wasn't excited about the black-robed cultivator's death. He waved his hand at the 5 Fingers Immortal and pointed at the black-robed cultivator. I'll leave him to you. You should know what to do. I know. I promise to complete the mission. How would the 5 Fingers Immortal dare to disobey Ningyu? Whether he could live or die depended on Ningyu's mood. If Ningyu wanted him to live, he would live. If Ningyu wanted him to die, he would die. Don't disappoint me. Ningyu only glanced at the 5 Fingers Immortal before walking towards the Dark Emperor. After all, the Dark Emperor's injuries were the heaviest. As for Ning Lu and the human demon, their injuries weren't that serious. Otherwise, the 5 Fingers Immortal wouldn't have accepted the mission to save the human demon and Ning Lu within half an hour. Let me do it. Seeing that Ningyu wanted to break the seal on the Dark Emperor, the human demon said hurriedly. After recovering his cultivation to his peak, the human demon could already sense the seal on the Dark Emperor. The human demon knew very well. Although Ningyu could use the Essence Creation Divine Staff to unleash the power of a mid-stage Sky Immortal, Ningyu couldn't help much with the seal on the Dark Emperor. All right. Ningyu was slightly startled when he heard the human demon's words. Soon after, he nodded and said, how could Ningyu not know the uniqueness of the seal in the Dark Emperor's body? Unless he was a genuine Heaven Immortal, it would be very difficult for him to break the seal left by Dan Qi with just the Essence Creation Divine Staff. Kacha! Just as Ningyu was deep in thought, the human demon's fist had already landed on the Dark Emperor's back. The human demon's punch directly broke one of the Dark Emperor's bones. I can't believe it. The Dark Emperor felt the pain and let out a furious roar. Sorry, it was a mistake. The human devil hurriedly apologized. Just now, he had indeed wanted to help the Dark Emperor break the seal. But who would have thought that there would be a small mistake, causing him to fail at the last moment? Kacha! Although human demon said that he had made a mistake, his hands were not idle at all. In the blink of an eye, the human demon punched out again. This punch directly broke a bone on the Dark Emperor's forehead. You! The Dark Emperor was so angry that he could not speak. He had asked the human demon to help him break the seal, not to be bullied. Kacha! However, the human demon did not continue to pay attention to the Dark Emperor. He waved his hands repeatedly, and in a few moves, the Dark Emperor rolled on the ground. You're too much. I'm going to fight it out with you. The Dark Emperor stood up with difficulty and yelled at the human demon. You're using your position to take revenge. Something's not right. Suddenly, the Dark Emperor raised his brows, as though he had thought of something. He hurriedly used the internal peering technique. Hiss! This glance caused the Dark Emperor to suck in a breath of cold air. The reason why the Dark Emperor had such a reaction was because the seal in his body had been secretly broken by the human demon. Kacha! At the same time, in a certain region of the Great Dao Valley, a cultivator suddenly crushed the stone in his hand, his expression extremely gloomy. How dare you break the seal I left behind? No one in the world can save you. After leaving behind those ruthless words, the cultivator burrowed into the void, disappearing without a trace. If the Dark Emperor was here, he would have discovered that this martial artist was none other than the martial artist who had left the seal in his body. Dan Qi. This martial artist's true identity was a peerless expert of the Dan Qi clan. Whoosh! Seeing that he had broken the seal in the Dark Emperor's body, the human demon could not help but heave a sigh of relief. To be honest, at that moment, even the human demon was not sure if he could break the seal. That was because the seal on the Dark Emperor's body was very special. If he was not careful, it would explode on the spot. Fortunately, I've recovered to my peak state. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable if I were to break the seal rashly. The human demon felt a little scared. If he had not recovered to the mid-stage heavenly immortal realm, this attempt to break the seal for the Dark Emperor would have ended in failure. Fortunately, I didn't fail. As soon as the human demon broke the seal in the Dark Emperor's body, the five-fingered immortal wiped the sweat off his forehead and cupped his fists at Ningyu. His injuries are completely healed. Hearing this, Ningyu hurriedly turned to look at Ninglu. The five-fingered immortal was right. At this time, Ninglu had completely recovered. Buzz! Ninglu had just recovered. Before he could say anything, space suddenly tore open. Following that, a cultivator appeared. Everyone says that Ningyu is extraordinary. I might not have believed it before, but after seeing it for myself today, it seems to be the case. The martial artist in the air stared at Ningyu and said calmly, "Can kill? Ha!" Before the warrior in the air could finish a sentence, he stared at the origin creating divine staff in Ningyu's hand and exclaimed, "No wonder you could kill my subordinates. It turns out that you have such a heaven-defying magic treasure." That's right, the martial artist in the air was none other than the blood poison immortal. To be more precise, it was just a clone of the blood poison immortal. The blood poison immortal was very strong. Even though it was just a clone, he could still see the difference in the origin creation godly staff. Ning Yu's expression was a little solemn. Ever since he could unleash 25% of the origin creation godly staff's power, he could gradually control the aura emitted by the origin creation godly staff. Ordinary martial artists would not be able to see the uniqueness of the origin creation godly staff. However, the fact that the martial artist in the air could see the difference in the origin creation godly staff was enough to show that he was not simple. An innocent man gets into trouble because of his wealth. The blood poison immortal stared at the origin creation godly staff in Ningyu's hand. Then he sighed and looked away. In fact, the blood poison immortal really wanted the origin creation godly staff. However, he knew very well that his real body was in the Dao Valley. Relying on this clone alone would not be able to snatch the origin creation godly staff. Therefore, he did not act rashly. "You are the blood poison immortal?" Ningyu asked. "That's right, I am the blood poison immortal." Chapter 2027. Buzz! Buzz! Immortal Blood Poison's clone had no intention of tangling with Ningyu. As soon as he finished speaking, Immortal Blood Poison's clone tore through the void and tunneled in. Immortal Blood Poison was no fool. The black-robed cultivator had used a mid-stage Sky Immortal's heart, causing his combat strength to soar to the early-stage Sky Immortal level for a short period of time. Even so, he was still no match for Ningyu and the human demon. Although this clone's overall combat strength was slightly stronger than the black-robed cultivator's, it was only slightly stronger. Just this clone alone was no match for Ningyu and the human demon. If he attacked rashly, there would only be one final outcome. His clone would be defeated, and Ningyu and the human demon would be injured to a certain extent. That's right, they would only be injured to a certain extent, but not fatally. Immortal Blood Poison would not do something that was clearly losing him money. Thus, he chose to leave for now. He would settle the score with Ningyu and the human demon after they entered the Dao Valley. "You want to leave?" When he saw Immortal Blood Poison's clone enter the void, Ningyu frowned slightly. Then he pushed off the ground and charged forward. At this moment, Ningyu decided to attack Immortal Blood Poison's clone. The reason why Ningyu made such a decision was because he sensed a terrifying aura from Immortal Blood Poison. Late-stage Sky Immortal. Ningyu sensed a trace of a late-stage Sky Immortal aura from Immortal Blood Poison. In order to ascertain Immortal Blood Poison's true cultivation level, Ningyu had to attack no matter what. Human Demon Fist. The human demon and Ning Yu were on the same side. The moment Ning Yu took a step forward, the human demon used his most powerful move. Crack! Under the combined attack of Ning Yu and the human demon, the void shattered and a figure darted out. Clearly, the martial artist who had emerged from the void was none other than Immortal Blood Poison, who had just entered. To be more precise, it was Immortal Blood Poison's clone. "You've angered me." Immortal Blood Venom stared fixedly at Ning Yu and the human demon, then said in a low voice, "Anyone who dares to anger me is destined to meet a terrible end." The instant he said the word field, Immortal Shui Du shot forward, his target being Ning Yu. Although Immortal Blood Poison wasn't completely confident in his ability to deal with Ning Yu and the human devil, he wouldn't cower at a time like this. After all, Ning Yu and the human devil had already come to bully him. If he were to cower, it would be somewhat inexcusable. The reason why he chose Ning Yu as his main target was that Ning Yu's cultivation was much lower than the human demon's. On the other hand, it was because Ning Yu had the essence creating divine staff. Since he had decided to attack, Immortal Blood Poison had never imagined that he would be able to leave alive, in Immortal Blood Poison's heart, as long as he could snatch the essence creation divine staff, it would be worth it even if he had to give up this clone. Good timing! Ning Yu waved the essence, creating divine staff in his hand, and smashed it at Immortal Blood Poison. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Ning Yu's staff was enough to kill an early-stage Sky Immortal. Facing the primordial creation divine staff that was heading towards him, Immortal Blood Poison took out a red flying sword and slashed at it. Crack! A crisp sound rang out. Hiss! Immortal Blood Poison sucked in a breath of cold air as he felt a tearing pain in his hand. In the first exchange, he was at a complete disadvantage. I have to get it. Immortal Blood Poison didn't feel depressed because he was at a disadvantage. Instead, he was attracted by the formidable power of the essence creating divine staff. If I can get it, I will become one of the top people in the Dao Valley. Immortal Blood Poison took a deep breath and began to spin his body rapidly. Whoosh! As Immortal Blood Poison's body spun, a whirlpool gradually appeared around him. The whirlpool was small at first, but as time passed, it grew larger and larger. In the end, the whirlpool became the size of several people. Ning Yu, I'll let you know what true strength is. Immortal Blood Poison looked coldly at Ning Yu, then opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood into the whirlpool. Buzz! 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 As the blood entered the whirlpool, it seemed to be stimulated by something and actually grew even larger. In just a few seconds, the whirlpool doubled in size. Swish! 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 Just as the whirlpool grew larger, several cold lights shot out from it. Myriad Poison Chaotic Dance. Immortal Blood Poison waved his hands repeatedly and bellowed at the same time. In an instant, cold lights flew out of the whirlpool. These cold lights were none other than poisons. There were all sorts of strange poisons. Although 10,000 poisons was a bit exaggerated, there were still thousands of poisons. Not good. Seeing hundreds and thousands of poisons shoot out of the whirlpool, Human Demon's expression changed drastically. He hurriedly tried to protect Ning Yu behind him. It's fine. However, Ning Yu waved his hand, indicating to Human Demon that there was no need to panic. The Origin Creation Divine Staff was a peak-grade, profound treasure. It didn't feel any pressure dealing with Immortal Blood Poison's poisons at all. Get in. Ning Yu's Yuan Qi rushed out of his body and poured into the Origin Creation Divine Staff. At this moment, Ning Yu controlled the Origin Creation Divine Staff and absorbed all the poisons shooting out of the whirlpool into his body. So many poisons. I like it. The reason why Ning Yu was so fearless was not just because of the Origin Creation Divine Staff. After all, no matter how powerful the Origin Creation Divine Staff was, it could only absorb the poisons into his body. But Ning Lu was different. His true form was the World Tree. In ancient times, the World Tree could purify all poisons. Although Ning Lu had yet to fully mature, he had no problem dealing with the poisons that immortal blood poison had used. Swish! Ning Lu's figure flashed, and he directly entered the Origin Creation Divine Staff. Oh! Ning Lu's actions caused immortal blood poison's mouth to open slightly, his face full of disbelief. To be honest, immortal blood poison was not particularly surprised that Ning Yu had used the Origin Creation Divine Staff to devour the poisons, because he knew that Ning Yu would definitely do that. But Ning Yu's friend Ning Lu had entered the Origin Creation Divine Staff, which really shocked immortal blood poison. Could it be? Soon, immortal blood poison seemed to have thought of something, and his face instantly turned gloomy. Immortal blood poison was a sky immortal expert from a high-level plane, so he naturally knew a lot of things. Immortal blood poison remembered very clearly that there was a kind of constitution that made people unafraid of poisons. This kind of constitution was called the myriad poison body. Ning Lu's actions clearly resembled the myriad poison body. After all, he had used more than 1,000 poisons. If one did not have the myriad poison body, they would definitely not dare to face it head-on. Swish! At this moment, Ning Lu flew out of the Origin Creation Divine Staff. Chapter 2028. I didn't expect you to have the myriad poison body. I was careless. Immortal blood poison's expression darkened. He took a deep breath and regained his composure. However, immortal blood poison's words were directed at Ning Yu, not Ning Lu. In immortal blood poison's opinion, Ning Lu only had the myriad poison body. His actual combat strength wasn't particularly strong. Martial artists like Ning Lu, he could kill several with a flip of his hand. Myriad poison body. Hearing immortal blood poison's words, Ning Yu frowned slightly, feeling a bit confused. He had indeed heard of the myriad poison body, but was the poison in the Dark Emperor's devouring vortex related to the myriad poison body? The Dark Emperor's main body was the World Tree. Devouring this poison was no problem at all. Stop pretending. Count yourself lucky today. Let's fight another day. Immortal blood poison glanced coldly at Ning Yu, then leaped up, wanting to escape before Ning Yu could react. However, how could Ning Yu let immortal blood poison escape just like that? In order to use the poison vortex, immortal blood poison had used all the trump cards of this clone. Even so, immortal blood poison hadn't been able to harm himself at all. Instead, his aura had become somewhat weak. Under such circumstances, Ning Yu didn't need to spend too much effort to capture immortal blood poison. Swish! Swish! Ning Yu and Human Demon attacked together. Ning Yu attacked immortal blood poison from the left, while Human Demon attacked immortal blood poison from the right. Uft! Under their combined attacks, immortal blood poison immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, his aura instantly dropping to a freezing point. Don't go too far! Immortal blood poison glared at Ning Yu and Human Demon. If you piss me off, I'll call my real body over. At this moment, immortal blood poison was extremely enraged. He was a mighty celestial immortal, yet he was blocked by Ning Yu and Human Demon. Although he had only come with a clone, if word got out, he would definitely lose face. I'll wait. Wielding the primordial creation divine staff, Ning Yu viciously smashed it towards immortal blood poison. Ning Yu didn't care whether or not immortal blood poison would summon his true body over. Taking 10,000 steps back, even if immortal blood poison summoned his true body, Ning Yu would not give up on killing his clone. There were some things that could be compromised, but there were some things that could not be compromised. Killing immortal blood poison's clone was something that he could not back down from. Rumble. Ning Yu did not act carelessly and go deal with immortal blood venom on his own. Instead, he joined forces with the human fiend to launch a lethal attack against immortal blood venom. Although Ningyu's cultivation level had not advanced to the Heaven Immortal stage, with the help of the Essence Creation Divine Staff, his overall strength had reached the peak of the mid-stage Heaven Immortal stage. He was even stronger than the human fiend. With the two of them working together, it only took them a short while to capture Immortal Blood Poison's clone. Ningyu did not immediately kill Immortal Blood Poison's clone. Instead, he kicked him and said, "Speak. Why did you send people to capture me?" How sharp was Ningyu's mind! He did not believe that Immortal Blood Poison would send people to capture him for no reason. One had to know that the cultivators sent by Immortal Blood Poison were all incomparably powerful. The Poison Dragon Guards and the Black Robe Cultivators were all formidable characters. Humph! Immortal Blood Poison snorted coldly, not intending to answer Ningyu's question. Ningyu and the human fiend were working together to capture him. How could he choose to compromise? Bang! Ningyu kicked Immortal Blood Poison's buttocks. At the same time, he said coldly, "Don't think that I won't know if you don't answer." Next, Ningyu extended his right hand and placed it on Immortal Blood Poison's head. Devour! Ningyu planned to devour Immortal Blood Poison's memories. What? This not good. Ningyu had just devoured a bit of Immortal Blood Poison's memories when he hastily retreated. Boom! Without a doubt, Immortal Blood Poison had left behind a seal in the head of this clone. If an outsider forcibly devoured the memories, the seal would explode and the enemy would perish together with them. Fortunately, Ningyu had reacted in time. Otherwise, just this trump card that Immortal Blood Poison had left behind would have been enough to make Ningyu suffer. Even so, Ningyu had suffered significant injuries. He had to consume quite a few medicinal pills before he could completely recover. Ningyu, what did you see in Immortal Blood Poison's memories? The human fiend did not care about Immortal Blood Poison's life or death. All he cared about was what Ningyu had discovered. Ningyu's shocked expression had been imprinted in the human fiend's mind, lingering there for a long time. Puzzlement, anger, shock, fear, all sorts of emotions had appeared on Ningyu's face in that instant. "It's nothing." Ningyu took a deep breath, then waved his hand at the human fiend. "Everyone rest here for half an hour. Then we'll set off for the Great Tao Valley." After saying that, Ningyu casually found a place to sit down and began to close his eyes to rest. What's going on? Seeing Ningyu's actions, the human fiend frowned slightly. He felt that things were definitely not as simple as they seemed. However, since Ningyu did not want to say anything, the human fiend would not force Ningyu. What he needed to do was quickly recover to his peak state, then follow Ningyu to the Great Tao Valley. Swish! On the other side, Ning Lu did not say a word as he silently devoured the 1,000-odd poisons in his body. Ning Lu's current strength was enough to contend against a cultivator with 6 great Tao energies. However, based on Ning Lu's own judgment, if he could devour and refine the 1,000-odd poisons in his body, his true battle prowess would soar to the peak. At the very least, he would be able to contend against an expert with 10 great Tao energies, or even 2 heavenly immortal laws. After all, the poisons left behind by Immortal Blood Poison were extremely potent. Whoosh! While Ning Lu was rapidly devouring and refining the poisons in his body, the Dark Sovereign appeared somewhat helpless. His strength had already reached a bottleneck. Unless he encountered some heaven-defying, fortuitous encounter, he would not be able to break through to a higher level in a short period of time. Oh, right. However, the Dark Sovereign quickly discovered the corpse of the black-robed cultivator beside the 5-fingered immortal. Although the black-robed cultivator was dead, his corpse had not completely disappeared. In order to allow the 5-fingered immortal to heal Ning Lu as soon as possible, Ningyu had handed the corpse to the 5-fingered immortal. Now that the 5-fingered immortal had healed Ning Lu, the corpse naturally fell into the Dark Sovereign's hands. At the same time, in a certain region of the Great Tao Valley, swish, swish, 2 figures tore through the void and gradually appeared. If Ningyu was here, he would definitely recognize one of the cultivators. It was none other than Zhao Rui, whom he had lost contact with. As for the cultivator beside Zhao Rui, his cultivation base was unfathomable. Zhao Rui, you said that you met 3 highly talented cultivators and planned to recommend them to the Central Divine Dynasty. Chapter 2029. Jinhua, stay out of my business. Zhao Rui frowned slightly and said coldly, You only have one task, and that is to listen to my orders. The cultivator called Jinhua shrugged his shoulders and did not dwell on this matter with Zhao Rui. Instead, he changed the topic and said, Rumor has it that the Great Tao Valley not only has the power of the Great Tao, but there are even heavenly immortal laws in the depths. Any sky immortal had sky immortal laws in their bodies. The standard to measure a sky immortal strength was how many sky immortal laws they had, as well as how thick they were. The power of the Great Tao was only a prelude to sky immortal laws. If one could not convert the power of the Great Tao into sky immortal laws, then no matter how much power they had, they could only be the weakest sky immortal. Such sky immortals were commonly known as false sky immortals, and they were undergoing the false sky immortal major tribulation. Don't act rashly, Zhao Rui said in a low voice. Zhao Rui said in a low voice, As far as I know, the overlords of several mid-sized weaves have sent their elders here. What we need to do is to observe the situation and avoid alerting them. Haha, you are too cautious. Jinhua smiled and said, Those elders are almost all people who are about to die. I alone am enough to deal with them. Zhao Rui frowned, but did not refute Jinhua. That was because Jinhua was a peerless genius of the Central Divine Dynasty. In the Central Divine Dynasty, he could rank in the top 50. Although Jinhua was only in the top 50, the Central Divine Dynasty was an upper-level domain, and it ruled over tens of millions of mid-sized dominions. Although Jinhua was only an early-stage sky immortal, his strength was so strong that even some of the strongest cultivators in the mid-sized dominions could not compete with him. Don't be careless. Let's keep going. Zhao Rui stomped on the ground and leaped up, continuing to head deeper into the Great Tao Valley. If your strength had recovered to its peak, I might have some scruples, but you can only use 50% of your peak combat strength. How can you escape from me? Jinhua's lips curved up involuntarily as he watched Zhao Rui's disappearing figure. Then Jinhua tore the void with both hands and burrowed in. At the same time, in another area of the Great Tao Valley, crack, 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 a martial artist clenched his fists, making cracking sounds. It could be seen that this martial artist was furious to the extreme. Immortal blood poison. Yes, this martial artist was none other than Immortal Blood Poison. At this moment, Immortal Shui Du could be said to be extremely depressed. In order to capture Ningyu alive, he had lost an entire team of poison dragon guards and a powerful, black-robed cultivator. In fact, even one of his doppelgangers had been killed. Ever since he had descended into the mortal spirit realm, when had Immortal Blood Poison ever suffered such humiliation? Buzz. As Immortal Shui Du was enraged, the void beside him suddenly split open and a martial artist appeared. Immortal Red Bell. Immortal Blood Poison's expression turned extremely unsightly when he saw the martial artist who had suddenly appeared. The reason why Immortal Shui Du had such an expression was because Immortal Hongling came from the Primordial Devil Sect. Hundreds of years ago, he had infiltrated the Primordial Devil Sect and killed a few early heavenly immortal experts from the Primordial Devil Sect. From then on, he was hunted down by the experts of the Primordial Devil Sect. How could he be in a good mood now that Immortal Hongling had appeared? Some time ago, one of your doppelgangers left the Great Tao Valley. Why hasn't he returned? Immortal Hongling looked at Immortal Shui Du with a puzzled expression and asked, What does my business have to do with you? Immortal Shui Du snorted coldly. Do you think I want to interfere in your business? Immortal Hongling pursed her lips and said, I'm here mainly to form an alliance with you. Alliance? Immortal Shui Du was slightly taken aback. He did not know what Immortal Hongling was up to. After all, the opportunities in the Great Dao Valley were limited. Forming an alliance with others meant that he had to share some of the opportunities with others. Immortal Shui Du was confident that he was not weak, so he did not want to form an alliance with others. Sacred Divine Palace, Ancient Demon Sect, Fallen Spirit Sect, Heaven Secret Sect, and a series of other powerful forces have more or less formed an alliance. Immortal Hongling shrugged and said nonchalantly, If you think that you can fight against 2 or even 3 of them, then forget what I said. Swoosh! Hearing Immortal Hongling's words, Immortal Shui Du's face instantly darkened. Although he was very confident in his own strength, he could not fight against so many opponents. The experts who had descended from the mid-level dominions were mostly at the peak of the mid-stage sky immortal level. In a one-on-one fight, he was confident that he would have the absolute upper hand. But in a one-on-two fight, he was not absolutely sure. How about it? Think about it? Immortal Hongling had long known that Immortal Shui Du would have such an expression. She raised her eyebrows and said, To a happy cooperation. How intelligent was Immortal Shui Du? He only thought about it for a second before agreeing to Immortal Hongling's suggestion. In the face of absolute benefits, any hatred could be temporarily dissolved. For the opportunities in the Great Dao Valley, Immortal Shui Du was willing to go all out. To a happy cooperation. The corners of Immortal Hongling's mouth curled up unnaturally, but this curvature disappeared in a flash. Come, let's continue deeper into the Great Dao Valley. Immortal Shui Du did not seem to notice the movement of Immortal Hongling's lips. He leaped up and charged straight into the depths of the Great Dao Valley. Swish! Immortal Hongling followed, closely behind Immortal Shui Du whoosh. At the same time, the void in front of the Great Dao Valley suddenly split open, and several warriors appeared. This is the Great Dao Valley? Ningyu frowned as he looked at the narrow passageway between the 2 mountains. Although the strength of Ningyu's group was not at the peak, they were not weak either. Among them, Human Demon was at the mid-stage sky immortal level. Five-Fingered Immortal had also recovered his strength to the early-stage sky immortal level. However, he was now under Ningyu's control. After the Dark Sovereign devoured the Black Robe Warrior, his combat strength had soared to the point where he could fight against a warrior with 10 great Dao powers. As for Ning Lu, he had devoured and refined more than 1,000 types of poisons from Immortal Shui to his current strength, could fight against an expert with 2 sky immortal laws. The 8-legged demon's strength did not increase. It still had 8 sky immortal laws. Finally, Ning Yu could now use 25% of the origin creation divine staff's power. His strength was already infinitely close to the late-stage sky immortal level. It could be said that among Ning Yu's group, Ning Yu was the strongest. That's right. This is the Great Dao Valley. The 8-legged demon clearly had some understanding of the Great Dao Valley. He took a step forward and explained, The first half of the Great Dao Valley is relatively narrow, but as you go deeper, the space will become wider. Chapter 2030. Ning Yu fell into deep thought. The path in front of the Great Dao Valley was very narrow. If they encountered a strong enemy inside, it was very likely that they would encounter a huge battle. At this time, the relatively weak Dark Emperor and Ning Lu would most likely become a burden. With that in mind, Ning Yu said, Dark Emperor Ning Lu, you two go into the storage ring first. The strength of the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu might be very strong in other places, but in the Great Dao Valley there were genuine small fries. They couldn't cause too much trouble. Ning Yu letting the 2 of them enter the storage ring was a sign of his responsibility toward them. Are we really going to enter the storage ring? Hearing Ning Yu's words, the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu asked. The two of them were not ignorant people, but they also wanted to share the burden for Ning Yu. Go in first. If it's possible, I'll let you out. Ning Yu opened his storage ring as he spoke. Xiao! Xiao! The Dark Emperor and Ning Lu looked at each other before leaping up and entering the storage ring. Hong Mo. Just as the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu entered the spatial ring, Ning Yu shouted in a low voice. In a split second, the Red Devil emerged from the Red Devil sword. Ning Yu held the Red Demon sword in his hand and put away the Origin Creation Divine Staff. Ning Yu believed that since he had news of the Essence Creation Divine Staff, immortal blood poison would not spread it wantonly. At this time, it was not suitable for him to bring the Essence Creation Divine Staff with him. His idea was to take the Red Fiend sword and leave the Origin Creating Divine Staff as a backup. After devouring Toxic Dragon No. 1's primordial spirit, the Red Demon sword had advanced to the Heavenly Treasure level. Although it was the weakest heavenly treasure, it was still a heavenly treasure. Ning Yu, if you can find more primordial spirits and Dharma treasures for me, the Red Demon's sword might even have a chance of becoming a profound treasure. The Red Fiend was very excited. He shouted at Ning Yu as soon as he came out. In fact, Red Fiend had a reason to be excited. The fact that the Red Demon's sword had the chance to become a dark treasure meant that he had the chance to improve further. After fusing with the Red Fiend's sword once again, his abilities were now linked to the Red Fiend sword's level. Now that the Red Demon sword was at the early stage of Heavenly Treasure, his strength had already reached the early stage of Heavenly Immortal. After all, Ning Lu had been busy for a very long period of time, yet he was merely able to go against an expert that possessed 2 Heavenly Immortal laws. As for the Dark Emperor, he was in an even more miserable state. He could only go against martial artists that possessed 10 great Tao energies, and he could only suffer grievances when encountering experts that possessed heavenly immortal laws. Oh, right. Ning Yu's mind suddenly stirred as he asked the Red Fiend, "Can the Red Fiend's sword devour the great Tao power?" Red Fiend was slightly taken aback. To be honest, he had never thought about this. The Red Demon's sword could devour primordial spirits, magic treasures, and vital energy. However, it had never devoured the power of the great Tao. I'm not too sure about the specifics. The Red Devil shook his head and answered truthfully. When we encounter the power of the Great Path, I'll leave it to you first. Ning Yu waved his hand and leaped into the air. He was the first to rush into the Great Path Valley. Behind Ning Yu, the human demon, the Red Fiend, the 5-fingered immortal, and the 8-legged demon followed closely behind Ning Yu into the Great Path Valley. Rumble. As soon as Ning Yu entered the Great Path Valley, he heard a rumbling sound. What's going on? The sudden change caused Ning Yu's head to spin momentarily. It's normal, the 8-legged demon explained. Ever since the Great Path Valley was formed, this rumbling sound has always been present. When we reach the central region, this rumbling sound will naturally disappear. You've entered the Great Path Valley before? Ning Yu looked at the 8-legged demon in surprise and asked. The 8-legged demon clearly knew a lot about the Great Path Valley, which exceeded Ning Yu's expectations. The 8-legged demon nodded and said, "Yes, I've entered the Great Path Valley with immortal creation in the past, but I didn't reach the deepest part." Didn't reach the deepest part? Ning Yu frowned. He had a rough understanding of immortal creation strength. He could tell from the Essence Creation Divine Staff that immortal creation left him that immortal creation must have been an extremely powerful existence. If even immortal creation was unable to reach the deepest part, one could imagine how dangerous the Great Path Valley was. Perhaps it had guessed what Ning Yu was thinking. The 8-legged demon explained. Immortal creation left behind 4 words. 4 words? 4 words? Ning Yu was startled and asked. "It's not time yet," the 8-legged demon said. It's not time yet, huh? Ningyu frowned slightly. Then his figure flashed, and he sped up toward the depths of the Great Path Valley. Since he was already here, he might as well take things as they come. Ning, you did not want to give up halfway. Moreover, with our team, unless a true late-stage heavenly immortal appeared, they could definitely do whatever they wanted in the Great Path Valley. Swoosh! Even though Ningyu's team was very fast, they still had to run at full speed for an hour before they reached the center of the Great Path Valley. Relatively speaking, the center of the Great Path Valley was much more spacious than the front. Valley. More accurately speaking, only the center of the Great Path Valley could be called a valley, while the front could only be called a winding path. So many small valleys. Ning, you looked at the entrances that extended in all directions and frowned. Which one is the main path? Follow me. At this time, the eight-legged demon's usefulness was revealed. Although the eight-legged demon was not strong, with him as a guide, Ningyu's team could avoid many detours. Whoosh! Soon, the eight-legged demon led Ningyu's team to the entrance of a small valley. There is great Tao energy inside. The eight-legged demon pointed at the entrance of the small valley and said, "Back then, Origin Creation Immortal did not care about this great Tao energy. However, I kept an eye out and remembered all the small valleys that Origin Creation Immortal had seen. You said that there is great Tao energy inside?" The human demon was slightly surprised. This was because the valley that the eight-legged demon was pointing at was too small. It was so small that his perception could easily cover it. With his mid-stage heavenly immortal perception, he could easily sense that there was no great Tao energy inside this small valley. Could it be that the eight-legged demon remembered wrongly? Watch me. The eight-legged demon knew that the human demon did not believe him. He clenched his right fist and punched out. A terrifying fist light separated from the eight-legged demon's fist and slammed into the small valley in front of them. Rumble. Under the eight-legged demon's attack, the small valley instantly disintegrated and turned into ruins. The eight-legged demon smiled. Under the confused gazes of Ningyu and the others, he walked to the center of the ruins and picked up a rock. Kacha! With a little force, the eight-legged demon split the rock into two. Swish! 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 As soon as the rock was split open, 5 cold lights shot out. Great Tao energy! The human demon exclaimed. That's right. These 5 cold lights were great Tao energy. It wasn't just the human demon. Even Ningyu was surprised. Chapter 2031. Swoosh! The corners of the eight-legged monster's lips curled up slightly. It then leaped into the air and dashed towards the 5 great path powers. An eight-legged demon beast was a terrifying existence that possessed 8 heavenly immortal laws. How could mere 5 grand Tao energies possibly escape the palm of his hand? With a flash of its figure, the eight-legged monster managed to gain firm control of the 5 great path forces in just a short while and returned to Ningyu's side. Since the eight-legged demon beast had come to Ningyu's side, it meant that his intentions were very clear. Give the great path powers to Ningyu. Thank you. Ning, you didn't stand on ceremony with the eight-legged demon beast. He took the 5 great path forces from the eight-legged demon beast and threw them to the Red Fiend. Ning, you had previously said that all the great path powers obtained in the Great Path Valley would be given to the Red Fiend first. Now that he had 5 great path powers, Ningyu would naturally fulfill his promise and give them to the Red Fiend. Let's go. The eight-legged monster frowned slightly when it saw Ningyu give the great path powers to the Red Fiend. It then let out a low grunt and dashed towards the depths of the Great Path Valley. The reason why the eight-legged monster had such an expression when it saw Ningyu give the great path powers to the Red Fiend was not because it regretted it, but because it felt that the great path powers would be more useful in Ningyu's hands than in the Red Fiend's. In its opinion, the Red Fiend would not be able to make the Red Fiend sword break through to the Dark Treasure level, even if it gave more Great Path powers to the Red Fiend. It might not even reach the peak Heavenly Treasure level. After all, once a Dharma treasure reached the Heavenly Treasure level, it would be even more difficult to upgrade it. Although it did not agree with Ningyu's actions, the eight-legged monster did not say it out loud. That was because it had given the Great Path powers to Ningyu, so how Ningyu handled them had nothing to do with it. What it needed to do now was to find all the small valleys in its memory. That was all. Before long, the eight-legged monster stopped in front of a small valley. The monster clenched its fists and punched. Boom! The same action, the same result. The small valley collapsed with a loud bang. What was slightly different from the last time was that the eight-legged demon beast had found 2 stones in this small valley. Kacha! Kacha! The eight-legged demonic beast smashed the 2 rocks into smithereens with a slight force from its palm. Shio, shio, shio! Just as the 2 stones shattered, several rays of cold light shot out from within. This, looking at the cold light that shot out from the 2 stones, even with Ningyu's composure, he couldn't help but gape in shock. Many. There were simply too many of them. His initial estimate was that there were at least dozens of great Tao energies. How could Ningyu not be surprised by the sudden appearance of so much power of great Tao? How could he not be shocked? Shio! At this moment, a figure suddenly dashed out from beside Ningyu. Red Devil. Ningyu was shocked, but soon, Ningyu's expression changed. He knew very well that the Red Fiend's intention was self-evident. He wanted dozens of great Tao energies. Ningyu opened his mouth, wanting to dissuade the Red Fiend, but in the end he chose to remain silent. Ningyu knew better than anyone else that the Red Fiend wanted to eat a fatty. To be honest, Ningyu didn't approve of the Red Fiend wanting to eat a fatty in one bite. However, on second thought, the Red Fiend had never done anything he wasn't confident in. Since the Red Fiend felt that he could succeed, he might as well let him try. Devour! The Red Fiend was originally worried that Ningyu would stop him, but now that Ningyu chose to remain silent, he was naturally very happy. In his joy, he opened his mouth and instantly sucked dozens of great Tao energies into his mouth. Swoosh! Then Ningyu and the others saw the Red Fiend's figure move and enter the Red Fiend's sword in front of them. Buzz! As soon as the Red Fiend entered the Red Fiend's sword, the Red Fiend sword vibrated. Moreover, the vibrations became more and more intense. Can it really advance to the peak of heavenly treasure? The Red Fiend sword's reaction made the eight-legged demon waver. After glancing at the calm Ningyu and the human fiend, the eight-legged demon pondered for a moment and finally chose to continue moving forward. The eight-legged demon was not a fool. He knew that the deeper they went into the Great Path Valley, the more pressure they would face. If the Red Fiend sword could really advance to the level of a dark treasure, it would be great news for them. After all, everyone knew what a dark treasure meant. Swish, swish, swish. In the next period of time, the eight-legged demon continuously found small valleys and extracted the great Tao energies from within. Without a doubt, all of these great Tao energies entered the Red Fiend's stomach. 2 hours. Within 2 hours, the eight-legged demon found a total of 500 great Tao energies. The fact that the eight-legged demon found 500 great Tao energies meant that the Red Fiend had devoured 500 great Tao energies. What's going on? Ningyu stared suspiciously at the Red Fiend's sword in his hand and frowned slightly. Out of trust for the Red Fiend, Ningyu had given him as many as 500 great Tao energies. Otherwise, Ningyu would have devoured 500 great Tao energies himself. 500 great Tao energies was not a lot, but it was not a small amount either. Even someone as strong as the human demon only had a little more than 500 strands of great Tao energy when he was in a higher plane. If Ningyu could devour 500 great Tao energies. He could even deal with a mid-stage heaven immortal without relying on the essence creation divine rod. Without the essence creation divine rod, Ning Yu's overall combat strength could only match an early-stage heaven immortal. If he encountered a mid-stage heaven immortal, he would only be able to bear a grudge. Although Dharma treasures were also a reflection of one's strength, Ning Yu would definitely not reject the idea of fighting a mid-stage heaven immortal without the help of Dharma treasures. I might have wasted more than 500 great Tao energies for nothing. The eight-legged monster and the human fiend looked at each other and saw a hint of disappointment in each other's eyes. With so many great Tao energies, anyone would be able to improve their strength greatly. Other than the eight-legged monster and the human fiend, even the five-fingered immortal could not help but shake his head and sigh. Although the great Tao energies were not comparable to the heaven immortal laws, the more great Tao energies one had, the stronger one's strength would be. After all, the heaven immortal laws were derived from the great Tao energies. As long as 50 of the 500 great Tao energies could be transformed into heaven immortal laws, it would be a great opportunity for a martial artist. Now that these opportunities were most likely wasted by the Red Fiend, how could the eight-legged monster and the others not be disappointed? Bam! Bam! In an instant, two muffled sounds came from the Red Fiend's sword. Then, the Red Fiend's sword suddenly broke free from Ningyu's hand and rushed straight into the air. Late stage. Heavenly treasure! Sensing the aura emanating from the Red Fiend's sword, even the eight-legged monster, who had some complaints about the Red Fiend, opened his eyes wide and stuttered. Chapter 2032. Phew! The Red Fiend heaved a sigh of relief. To be honest, the Red Fiend had been under a lot of pressure in the past 2 hours. He had devoured 500 Great Path energies in 2 hours. If the Red Fiend could not make a breakthrough, he would not be able to face Ningyu. Fortunately, after more than 2 hours of hard work, the Red Fiend finally advanced. Moreover, the Red Fiend did not advance from the early stage heavenly treasure to the mid-stage heavenly treasure. It advanced from the early stage heavenly treasure to the late stage heavenly treasure. The Red Fiend's strength naturally increased when the Red Fiend advanced to the late stage heavenly treasure. Late stage heavenly immortal. The Red Fiend's combat power was now comparable to a late stage heavenly immortal. Although he was only the weakest late-stage heavenly immortal, the Red Fiend's strength had leaped to become the strongest in this area. Unless Ningyu and the human fiend joined forces, and each of them used their trump cards, it would be difficult to compete with the Red Fiend. That was because there was a huge gap between the late-stage heavenly immortal and the mid-stage heavenly immortal. Your strength. The attention of the eight-legged monster and the human fiend quickly shifted from the Red Fiend to the Red Fiend. The eight-legged demonic beast and the human demon were already shocked, but they were even more astonished by what they saw. The eight-legged monster and the human fiend were not stupid. Moreover, the Red Fiend did not hide anything, so the two of them could easily determine the Red Fiend's true strength. I was just lucky. The Red Fiend smiled at the eight-legged monster and the others. He immediately leaped up and came to Ningyu's side. The Red Fiend cupped his fists at Ningyu and said in a deep voice, "Fortunately, I did not fail." Very good. Ningyu patted the Red Fiend's shoulder and praised him. He then asked in confusion, "I'm very curious. Although 500 Great Path energies are a lot, it should not be enough for the Red Fiend to advance to the late stage heavenly treasure. How did you do it?" Swoosh! Hearing Ningyu's words, the human fiend and the others all looked over. Obviously, Ningyu's question was exactly what they were wondering. Not only did the Red Fiend's sword advance to the late stage heavenly treasure, but even the Red Fiend's strength had soared to the late stage heaven immortal. Completing all of this in such a short period of time, and under the premise that he only used 500 Great Path powers. Really puzzled them. The red demon sword originally had energy within it. The 500 wisps of great Tao power merely stimulated it. The red devil glanced at the human demon and the 8-legged demon beast before he finally said, "There was energy to begin with." Ningyu was slightly startled, but he immediately understood what Hong Emo meant. Previously, the Red Devil had mentioned that there were seals in the depths of the Red Devil sword, and within those seals was an enormous amount of energy. It could be said that the 500 strands of Great Tao energy were only the keys to open those seals. Without 500 Great Tao powers, the seal could not be opened, and the Red Fiend sword would not be able to advance to the late-stage heavenly treasure. Naturally, the Red Fiend would not be able to fight against a late-stage Heaven Immortal. Therefore, no matter what, the 500 strands of Great Path power were the greatest contributors. Let me stabilize my cultivation first. The Red Devil's figure flashed and directly merged with the Red Fiend sword. Then, under the astonished gazes of the 8-legged demon beast and the others, it went into the storage ring. It seems that the Red Fiend sword is not as simple as it looks. Ningyu frowned. From the beginning to the end, Ningyu still could not figure out the secret of the Red Fiend sword. However, Ningyu felt that as the level of the Red Fiend sword increased, he should be getting closer to the real secret. How far away are we from the deepest area of the Great Path Valley? Ningyu gradually collected his thoughts and looked at the 8-legged demon beast as he asked, "At full speed, it will take about 10 minutes. The 8-legged demon thought for a while and answered, 10 minutes. Ningyu took a deep breath and immediately stomped his feet on the ground, charging ahead. Full speed ahead. As soon as he said that, Ningyu's figure disappeared from the 8-legged demon beast and the other's sight. The Red Fiend sword had advanced to the late-stage heavenly treasure, and the strength of the Red Fiend sword had soared to the late-stage Heaven Immortal. This made Ningyu full of confidence. After all, the Red Fiend sword was his natal Dharma treasure. The increase in the level of the Red Fiend sword meant that his combat strength had also increased. Before, without using the Origin Creation Divine Staff, Ningyu could only fight against early-stage Heaven Immortals. If he encountered mid-stage Heaven Immortals, he could only hold a grudge. But now, even without the Origin Creation Divine Staff, Ningyu could still fight against mid-stage Heaven Immortals with the help of the Red Fiend sword. In fact, it could even kill a mid-heavenly immortal expert. Swish! 10 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. When the 11th minute arrived, Ningyu suddenly emerged from the void and floated in the air. Buzz! Buzz! Not long after Ningyu stopped, the 8-legged demon beast and the human fiend appeared beside Ningyu. Generally speaking, as long as you can cross this barrier, you will enter the deepest area of the Great Tao Valley. The 8-legged demon beast pointed to the faintly discernible barrier in front of them and said, "The deepest area of the Great Tao Valley is extremely dangerous." Even mid-stage Heaven Immortals have to be extremely careful when they enter. Otherwise, they might die inside. Hearing the 8-legged demon beast's words, Ningyu vaguely felt that something was amiss. As long as you can, these words, no matter how one listened to them, did not seem like normal words. Could it be at this thought? Ningyu's expression instantly became solemn. Roar! As expected, a terrifying roar came from the faintly discernible barrier. Swish! As soon as the roar was heard, a huge figure swept out from the barrier and appeared in front of Ningyu and the others. Mid-stage Heaven Immortal. Ningyu's expression turned ugly when he sensed the aura emitting from the colossal creature. The area they were in was only the middle part of the Great Tao Valley. If even the middle part was guarded by mid-stage Heaven Immortal experts, one could imagine how terrifying the deepest area was. Our luck isn't too good. The eight-legged demon beast stared at the colossal creature and said in a deep voice, "There are many demonic beasts inside the barrier that separates the middle and deepest areas of the Great Tao Valley. The last time I came here with a mortal creation, there was only an early-stage heaven immortal beast inside the barrier. I didn't expect a mid-stage heaven immortal beast to appear." Ning Yu was speechless. His luck was too bad. Encountering a mid-stage heaven immortal beast before they even entered the deepest area was the worst thing that could happen to them. This was because killing a mid-stage heavenly immortal demonic beast required a lot of resources. Unbeknownst to Ningyu, while he was staring at the colossal creature, two cultivators were paying close attention to what was happening in the voided distance away from the barrier. If Ningyu was here, he would definitely recognize one of the cultivators. It was none other than Immortal Blood Poison, whose clone he had destroyed. Chapter 2033. Immortal Hongling. This martial artist in red was none other than the expert from the primordial demon sect who had convinced Immortal Blood Poison, previously Immortal Hongling. I hope they won't disappoint me. Immortal Blood Poison crossed his arms over his chest, staring with interest at Ningyu and the others on the other side of the barrier. Although they were quite far away from Ningyu's group and were in the void, how could this stop Immortal Blood Poison? Immortal Blood Poison had already seen every move of Ningyu's group through a secret technique. Don't be careless. I can sense a rather terrifying aura from Ningyu's body, Immortal Hongling reminded. Moreover, the person by Ningyu's side isn't simple as well. He's a human devil who once slaughtered numerous heavenly immortal experts by himself. As a super expert from the primordial demon sect, Immortal Hongling clearly knew more things. Apart from the eight-legged demonic beast, she knew the human demon and five-fingered immortal beside Ningyu like the back of her hand. It's fine. The demonic beast over there is called the Dragon Scorpion. Even I would find it difficult to deal with it, let alone Ningyu's group. Immortal Blood Poison waved his hand and said casually, "We can take this opportunity to observe the overall strength of Ningyu's group and decide whether to kill them or subdue them." Immortal Hongling frowned slightly when she saw Immortal Blood Poison's arrogance. She wanted to say something, but chose to keep quiet in the end. After all, she had teamed up with Immortal Blood Poison to fight against the Sacred Divine Palace and the other sections. If Immortal Blood Poison was stupid, she wouldn't mind abandoning him and looking for others to work with. She might even look for Ningyu to work with. Immortal Hongling didn't have lifelong friends, much less lifelong enemies. In the face of absolute benefits, anything could happen. That's the Dragon Scorpion. The eight-legged demonic beast clearly recognized the Dragon Scorpion. He explained to Ningyu, "We can only kill it or beat it into submission. Otherwise, we won't be able to enter the deepest part of the Great Tao Valley." Beat it into submission? Ningyu smiled bitterly. Strictly speaking, it was more difficult to subdue a mid-stage heaven immortal demonic beast like the Dragon Scorpion than to kill them. Therefore, Ningyu did not think that the eight-legged monster would subdue the Dragon Scorpion beast. Human Devil. Ningyu took a deep breath and turned to the human demon, saying, "You and I will attack together. We must finish off this scorpion beast." "All right." The human demon nodded and leaped into the air, hovering next to Ningyu. "I sense a familiar aura from you." Just as Ningyu and the human demon were about to take action, the Dragon Scorpion suddenly spoke. "Could it be that you are that person's disciple?" Ningyu and the human devil were both surprised. They didn't expect the Dragon Scorpion to speak, and from its expression, it didn't seem to want to be their enemy. Ningyu pondered for a moment and guessed who that person the Dragon Scorpion beast was referring to. Origin Creation Immortal. The The person the dragon scorpion beast was talking about was 100% origin creation immortal. I'm not his disciple. Ning Yu shook his head at the dragon scorpion beast. What a pity. Ning Yu's action caused the dragon scorpion beast to reveal a disappointed expression. That's right, it was disappointed, and it didn't seem to be faking it. Although I'm not his disciple, I have a good relationship with him. Ning Yu made up his mind and took out the origin creation divine stick. Boom! As soon as Ning Yu took out the origin creation divine stick, the dragon scorpion beast's eyes widened and a terrifying aura emanated from its body. I can't believe it. Even though Ning Yu had a lot of self-control, he couldn't help but curse when he felt the aura of the dragon scorpion beast. Strong. It's too strong. The dragon scorpion beast wasn't a mid-stage sky immortal demon beast. Its real cultivation level should be late-stage sky immortal. Moreover, the late-stage heaven immortal stage of the dragon scorpion beast was different from the red fiend. In other words, the two red fiends weren't a match for the dragon scorpion beast. Why do you have the origin creation divine stick? Sigh, I should have known. The dragon scorpion beast seemed to want to reprimand Ning Yu, but it sighed and fell into deep thought as if it had recalled something. What's going on? Did Ning Yu make the dragon scorpion beast submit? Blood Poison Immortal, who was in the void on the other side of the barrier, couldn't help but open his mouth and ask in confusion. Blood Poison Immortal wanted the dragon scorpion beast to deal with Ning Yu. At the very least, he wanted to teach Ning Yu a lesson. Therefore, when he found out that the dragon scorpion beast was a late-stage sky immortal, Blood Poison Immortal was excited for a long time. However, all of this disappeared with the dragon scorpion beast's silence. Blood Poison Immortal's face turned extremely ugly. He clenched his fists and said fiercely, I didn't expect you to be related to the dragon scorpion beast. How smart was Blood Poison Immortal? Thinking about it, he realized the crux of the matter. It must be because of the origin creation divine stick. Otherwise, the dragon scorpion beast wouldn't have stopped attacking for no reason. I want the origin creation divine stick. A cold light shot out of Immortal Blood Poison's eyes. At that moment, he secretly made up his mind. Even if he couldn't snatch the fortuitous opportunities in the Dao Valley, he would capture Ning Yu and take away the origin creation divine staff. This matter was the most important to him, and its importance was rated at 3 stars. Ning Yu and his group aren't simple. Perhaps guessing what Blood Poison Immortal was thinking, Immortal Hongling's lips curled up slightly. I suggest that we continue on our way. It's best not to waste time here. Humph, what a woman. Blood Poison Immortal snorted. The dragon scorpion beast can't cross the barrier. If we join forces, even 10 Ning Yus will die in our hands. Boom! Immortal Hongling's aura was instantly released. Taking a step forward, Immortal Hongling said coldly, If there's a next time, I don't mind sparring with you. Hiss! Although Immortal Hongling's aura disappeared in a flash, it still made Blood Poison Immortal gasp. She hid her strength well. Previously, Blood Poison Immortal had thought that Immortal Hongling was just an ordinary mid-stage heaven immortal martial artist. But now he was almost certain that Immortal Hongling was not simple. Even if he used his full strength, he might not be able to completely suppress Immortal Hongling. In fact, if Immortal Hongling had a trump card, he might even be defeated. Humph! Although he was shocked, Blood Poison Immortal still snorted coldly and said no more. As the saying went, one mustn't lose face. Blood Poison Immortal didn't want to lose face in front of Immortal Hongling. You are indeed the one he chose. On the other side, the dragon scorpion beast stared at Ning Yu and said, Give me the origin creation divine stick. You want the origin creation divine stick? Ning Yu's expression changed slightly. Although the dragon scorpion beast wasn't hostile toward him, it didn't mean that he would obediently hand over the origin creation divine stick. Chapter 2034. Don't worry, I have no enmity towards you. Perhaps sensing Ningyu's worry, the dragon scorpion waved his hand and said, I just want to take a look at the origin creation divine staff. Ningyu frowned slightly and said, I know you have no enmity towards me, but I won't hand the origin creation divine staff to you unless you can convince me. You're not afraid of me? The dragon scorpion took a step forward and unleashed his aura, pressuring towards Ningyu. The dragon scorpion was a late-stage heaven immortal, so his aura was naturally very powerful. Even though Ningyu was prepared, he couldn't help but grimace in the face of the late-stage heaven immortal's aura. Fortunately, the human demon and the five-fingered immortal also unleashed their auras to resist the dragon scorpion's aura. Otherwise, Ningyu would have definitely called out the Hong Mo. Although the dragon scorpion was very powerful, it was hard to tell who would win if they really fought. Swish! The dragon scorpion looked at Ningyu meaningfully and retracted his aura. Sigh, I'm not here to snatch the origin creation divine staff. I'm here to repay a debt of gratitude. The dragon scorpion sighed and explained to Ningyu. Repay a debt of gratitude? Ningyu was very confused. However, after thinking about it, he understood what was going on. He had never interacted with the dragon scorpion before, so the dragon scorpion's so-called debt of gratitude was definitely not him, but origin creation immortal. I remember now, you're that little scorpion. Right at this moment, the eight-legged demon beast at the side seemed to have thought of something, and it immediately shouted. The dragon scorpion felt a little embarrassed when he heard the eight-legged demon's words. He was a late-stage heaven immortal, yet the eight-legged demon called him a little scorpion. How was he going to establish himself in the Dao Valley if word got out? What's going on? Asked Ningyu, having noticed some clues. The eight-legged beast sorted out his thoughts and slowly said, I'll have to start from when immortal creation first entered the great Dao Valley. It turned out that the last time immortal creation entered the great Dao Valley, the dragon scorpion beast was still very weak. In fact, it could only be considered a scorpion and not a scorpion dragon. At that time, the dragon scorpion beast was besieged by a few powerful demonic beasts. During that time, immortal origin creation couldn't bear to watch and casually saved the dragon scorpion beast. After rescuing the dragon scorpion beast, immortal origin creation casually left it behind and continued deeper into the great Dao Valley with the eight-legged demon beast. As the saying goes, the rescuer has no intention, but the rescued have the intention. Ever since then, the dragon scorpion beast had been guarding this place, waiting for immortal creation to choose to repay his kindness. Unfortunately, ever since then, immortal essence creation seemed to have forgotten about the great Dao Valley and never came back. Now that the dragon scorpion sensed the aura of the origin, creating divine rod from Ningyu, it naturally transferred the promise it had made to Ningyu. I see. Ningyu nodded his head gently. Since this matter came from the mouth of the eight-legged demon beast, it was most likely true. Moreover, the dragon scorpion beast's attitude was not bad, so Ningyu simply threw the origin, creating divine rod at the dragon scorpion beast. According to Ningyu's guess, immortal creation would definitely leave a trump card in the origin, creating divine rod. Even if the dragon scorpion beast wanted to snatch the origin, creating divine rod, it would most likely fail. Looking at the origin, creating divine rod that was continuously charging at it, the dragon scorpion beast took a deep breath and immediately controlled the origin, creating divine rod to float in front of it. What happened next left Ningyu and the others dumbfounded. The dragon scorpion beast did not do anything. It just stared at the origin, creating divine rod floating in front of it, as if it was immersed in some kind of memory. Drip, drip, drip. Time passed by quickly. What the hell is going on? Immortal Blood Poison's expression was very ugly. He had originally thought that the dragon scorpion beast would become enemies with Ningyu, or at least severely injure Ningyu and the others. Who would have thought that not only would the dragon scorpion beast not become enemies with Ningyu and the others, it would also stare at the origin, creating divine rod in a daze. A bad omen. Immortal Blood Poison turned to look at Immortal Hongling and said in a deep voice, "In my opinion, we should kill our way over." Kill our way over? Immortal Hongling was slightly startled. Then she said, "Did you not notice the dragon scorpion beast's cultivation? If it's just one dragon scorpion beast, I might choose to attack. But if Ningyu and the human demon are involved, I think you should just save it, unless you are willing to sacrifice yourself to kill 1,000 enemies. Don't provoke me." Immortal Blood Poison looked coldly at Immortal Hongling. Immortal Hongling shrugged her shoulders and did not continue speaking. The more Immortal Hongling acted like this, the angrier Immortal Blood Poison became. However, when he thought of the dragon scorpion beast's formidable strength, Immortal Blood Poison finally chose to compromise and did not continue arguing with Immortal Hongling. This was because Immortal Blood Poison knew very well that now was not the time to bicker with Immortal Hongling. The two of them had a common enemy. Before they dealt with this common enemy, it was not suitable for them to have a falling out. Roar! All of a sudden, the dragon scorpion beast opened its mouth and roared angrily. Swish! As the dragon scorpion beast roared, a fist-sized golden inner core suddenly flew out of its mouth. What? Seeing the golden inner core fly out of the dragon scorpion beast's mouth, the expressions of Ningyu and the human demon changed drastically. Without a doubt, this inner core belonged to the dragon scorpion beast. No matter what, Ningyu and the others would never have imagined that the dragon scorpion beast would actually take out its inner core. One must know that for a Yao beast, losing its inner core meant that its overall combat strength would decrease by at least half. Crack! Under the shocked gazes of Ningyu and the others, a terrifying devouring force shot out of the essence, creating divine staff. Obviously, this devouring force easily devoured the inner core that the dragon scorpion beast had taken out. Buzz! After swallowing the inner core, the essence creating divine staff vibrated slightly. This! Ningyu's eyes widened, and his face was filled with disbelief. 30%. Now he could already use 30% of the essence creating divine staff's power. 25% of the essence creating divine staff's power allowed Ningyu to easily deal with a peak mid-stage heaven immortal. Now that he could use 30% of the essence creating divine staff's power, Ningyu's overall combat strength was close to a late-stage heaven immortal. It was no exaggeration to say that if Ningyu could have a few more heaven immortal nomological laws, he would be able to easily deal with a late-stage heaven immortal if he encountered one. There are two very strong people not far away. I hope you'll be careful. The dragon scorpion beast glanced at Immortal Xuedu and Immortal Hongling, who were hiding in the void in the distance. Then it tore open the void and entered. In an instant, the dragon scorpion beast disappeared. Swish! After the dragon scorpion beast disappeared, the essence creating divine staff drew an arc in the air and returned to Ningyu. Ningyu first bowed deeply in the direction that the dragon scorpion beast disappeared, then reached out his right hand and grasped the essence creating divine staff. Boom! Chapter 2035. Dragon Scorpion. Almost in an instant, Ningyu understood. The reason why there was energy shooting out of the origin, creating divine rod, was entirely because of the dragon scorpion beast. The dragon scorpion beast had mentioned not only allowing the essence creation divine rod to display 30% of its power, but also providing Ningyu with a huge amount of energy. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the energy provided by the dragon scorpion beast could double Ningyu's strength. Buzz. As the energy entered his body, Ningyu's body buzzed. Ningyu wasn't stupid. Since the dragon-scorpion beast had given up its inner core to provide him with energy, he naturally wouldn't disappoint it. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu sat down cross-legged. Ningyu quickly circulated the spirit transformation art and began to refine the enormous energy that entered his body. The dragon-scorpion beast was willing to give up its inner core. While Ningyu was devouring the energy in his body, the human demon's expression turned solemn. To be honest, the human demon was shocked by the dragon-scorpion beast's actions. For a demon beast, losing its inner core could reduce its strength by more than half, or even put its life in danger. The dragon-scorpion beast was willing to give up its inner core to repay a debt of gratitude. This courage alone was enough to make the human demon look at it in a different light. You've all been deceived by the dragon-scorpion beast. Seeing the human demon's solemn expression, the eight-legged demon rolled its eyes and said, "The dragon-scorpion beast has 2 inner cores in total. Even if it gave up one, it wouldn't matter much." 2 inner cores? The human demon exclaimed. It was rare to see a demon beast with 2 inner cores, even in a high-level plane. Moreover, the human demon knew about the dragon-scorpion beast, but he had never heard of it having 2 inner cores. Ordinary dragon-scorpion beasts naturally only have 1 inner core, but that dragon-scorpion beast was different. Its 2nd inner core was completely given to it by Origin Creation Immortal. The 8-legged demon explained. When Origin Creation Immortal saved the dragon-scorpion beast, he had given it a profound immortal-level demon beast's inner core. Otherwise, how could the dragon-scorpion beast advance to the late-stage Heaven Immortal stage in such a short time? Even if the dragon-scorpion beast tried its best to refine a Xian immortal-level inner core, it could only refine a portion of it. The dragon-scorpion beast couldn't refine the rest of the cores. Since it was unable to refine the inner core, the dragon-scorpion beast decided to hand it over to Ningyu. This could be considered as repaying immortal Origin Creation for saving it back then. From then on, they no longer owed each other anything. Rumble. Not long after, a terrifying voice came from Ningyu's body. Hiss. Sensing the aura emanating from Ningyu's body, the human demon couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air despite knowing how terrifying the inner core was. The current Ningyu's cultivation base was still at the peak of half-step Heaven Immortal Realm, but it gave the human devil an extremely terrifying feeling. This feeling was as if he was facing an expert at the peak of the Heavenly Immortal Realm. Ningyu. The human demon looked at Ningyu, his mouth agape. I was lucky to increase my strength a little. Ningyu smiled faintly, then stood up and walked toward the depths of the great Dao Valley. Although he had a lot of doubts, it wasn't appropriate for the human demon to ask since Ningyu didn't say anything. Therefore, the human demon could only suppress the doubts in his heart and follow closely behind Ningyu with the 8-legged demon and the 5-fingered immortal. As the person involved, although Ningyu looked calm on the surface, a storm had already been set off in his heart. The opportunity given by the dragon-scorpion beast, no, it should be the opportunity given by immortal Origin Creation, was simply too shocking. At this moment, Ningyu was even more curious about immortal Origin Creation's identity. This was because the energy that shot out from the Origin Creation Divine Rod was not just energy. There was also something that shocked him, a mysterious immortal law. Above the heavenly immortal was the mysterious immortal law. It could be said that even if several heavenly immortal laws were combined, they wouldn't be able to resist a mysterious immortal law. This was the domineering nature of a mysterious immortal law. At this moment, there was already a mysterious immortal law in Ningyu's body. He had a mysterious immortal law in his body before advancing to the heavenly immortal realm, and he could control it effortlessly. Throughout the ages, Ningyu was probably the only one who could do this. How strong am I exactly? For the first time, Ningyu felt lost about his own strength. Previously, he could fight against a mid-stage heavenly immortal realm martial artist with the red demon sword without using the origin creation divine rod. But now he could fight against a mid-stage heavenly immortal realm martial artist without using the red demon sword. He could even kill a mid-stage heavenly immortal realm martial artist with ease. He could even kill a late-stage heavenly immortal realm martial artist with ease. There was no other reason. He had a mysterious immortal law in his body. The mysterious immortal law was extremely domineering. Even though Ningyu only had one mysterious immortal law, he could easily kill a late-stage heavenly immortal realm martial artist. Unless he encountered a pinnacle heavenly immortal super expert, Ningyu could do whatever he wanted in the Great Dao Valley. He's finally here. In the depths of the Great Dao Valley, Immortal Blood Poison's figure flashed and suddenly appeared in the void. Immortal Redling, who was beside Immortal Blood Poison, frowned slightly. She did not know why, but her sharp senses kept feeling that Ningyu was a little different. Her rationality told her that this was not the right time to clash with Ningyu. She should avoid him and temporarily enter the depths of the Great Dao Valley to search for opportunities. However, when she saw the origin creation divine rod in Ningyu's hand, she ultimately chose to stay where she was. Long time no see. Looking at Immortal Blood Poison, who had appeared in front of him, Ningyu's lips curled up slightly. I'll give you a chance to live now. Submit to me. Submit to you. Immortal Blood Poison seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He first threw his head back and laughed maniacally. Then he said coldly, "A piece of trash like you is not qualified. Let me give you a piece of advice. If you know what's good for you, hurry up and hand over the origin creation divine rod. Otherwise, I'll let you know why flowers are so red." As he spoke, Immortal Blood Poison took a step forward and released his aura. Late stage Heaven Immortal. At this moment, Immortal Blood Poison released his aura without holding anything back. In order to obtain the origin creation divine rod and avoid any unforeseen events, Immortal Blood Poison was going all out. Rumble. Next to Immortal Blood Poison, Immortal Redling frowned and released her aura as well. Late stage Heaven Immortal. Like Immortal Blood Poison, Immortal Redling's cultivation was also at the late stage Heaven Immortal. Swoosh. Sensing the aura released by Immortal Blood Poison and Immortal Redling, Hong Fiend's figure flashed, and he darted out of the Red Fiend sword, standing in front of Ningyu. Holding the Red Fiend sword, Hong Fiend said coldly, "If you want to deal with Ningyu, you'll have to get past me first." Heavenly Treasure, and its level is at the late stage Heavenly Treasure? Immortal Blood Poison's attention was not on Hong Fiend, but on the Red Fiend sword. Although Hong Fiend's cultivation was also at the late stage Heaven Immortal, he was only equivalent to the weakest late stage Heaven Immortal. Naturally, Immortal Blood Poison was not afraid of him. Chapter 2036. Clap, clap, clap. Immortal Blood Poison clapped his hands and could not help but say, "Good, very good, very good. Now, hand over the flying sword in your hand, and I will spare your wretched life. You're courting death." When had Red Fiend ever suffered such humiliation? His eyes turned cold, and he leaped into the air, charging at Immortal Blood Poison with the Red Fiend's sword in hand. "You overestimate yourself." Seeing Red Fiend charging at him, Immortal Blood Poison's lips curled into a smile. He flicked his right hand, and a beam of cold light shot out. Chi! The beam of cold light was very fast, so fast that it made a hissing sound as it rubbed against the air. Ding! In the blink of an eye, the beam of cold light collided with the Red Fiend sword. A crisp sound rang out, and the Red Fiend sword flew out of Red Fiend's hand, falling straight to the ground. Bang! Immortal Blood Poison was not satisfied after striking the Red Fiend sword. He clenched his fists and charged out again. This time, his fist landed on Red Fiend's body, sending him flying several meters away. Swish! If not for the human demon catching Red Fiend at the critical moment, Red Fiend's injuries would have worsened. Even so, Red Fiend's aura was weak, and he did not look very well. I gave you a chance, but you didn't know how to cherish it. Immortal Blood Poison shrugged at Red Fiend, then shifted his gaze to Ningyu. He said calmly, "Hand over the Origin Divine Staff. I don't want to repeat myself." "Submit?" Or, Ningyu's expression was indifferent. He paused for a moment, then said coldly, "Die." When Ningyu said the word die, the temperature of the entire area instantly dropped by dozens of degrees, becoming bone-chilling. You! Immortal Blood Venom stared fixedly at Ningyu, as though he had just seen something terrifying. Even his words began to stutter. Run. In almost an instant, Immortal Blood Poison made his decision. Run. He would run as far as he could. At this moment, Immortal Blood Poison had no backbone. All he wanted to do was run. What the hell is going on? Immortal Blood Poison's sudden escape left the human fiend god and the eight-legged Yao rather flabbergasted. As they saw it, Ningyu hadn't even attacked yet. Why had Immortal Blood Poison chosen to flee? Immortal Blood Poison, this is all your fault. Immortal Blood Poison was not the only one who chose to flee. Even Immortal Hongling, who was beside him, turned pale with fright and fled at top speed. The human devil and the eight-legged demonic beast couldn't see the profound immortal law on Ningyu's body. But as late-stage Heaven Immortal experts, they could naturally see through it. Even though they were extremely confident in their strengths, under the formidable deterrence of the mysterious immortal laws, they still chose to flee at the first possible moment. Can you escape? The corner of Ningyu's lips curled up slightly. Then he tore open the void and entered it. Buzz! After Ningyu left, the area instantly returned to peace, and the temperature also returned to normal. Beep, beep, beep. Time passed very quickly. In the blink of an eye, 3 seconds passed, and when the 4th second arrived, Kacha! The void suddenly split open, and a figure slowly appeared from within. Ningyu! The martial artist who appeared from the void was Ningyu. However, Ningyu was carrying a martial artist in each of his hands, Immortal Blood Poison in his left hand, and Immortal Hongling in his right. Bang! Bang! Ningyu flung his hands, tossing Immortal Blood Poison and Immortal Hongling to the ground. At this moment, Immortal Blood Poison and Immortal Hongling were like dead dogs, their eyes dim and lifeless. Ningyu, how did you do it? The human devil, eight-legged demonic beast, and Immortal Five-Fingered exclaimed. Only Red Fiend frowned slightly, looking at Ningyu thoughtfully. Even though he hadn't truly advanced to the late-stage Heaven Immortal stage, Red Fiend could unleash the combat power of a late-stage Heaven Immortal. The human devil and eight-legged demonic beast were unable to discover the profound immortal laws, but Red Fiend could vaguely sense some clues. I'm relying on this. Ningyu didn't hide anything. With a thought, he summoned the profound immortal laws in his body, and they hovered above his palm. Gasp! Looking at the profound immortal laws hovering above Ningyu's palm, the human devil and eight-legged demonic beast gasped. Profound immortal laws. After a mere second of shock, the human devil and the rest revealed looks of ecstasy. They naturally knew what profound immortal laws meant. Profound immortal laws meant that unless they encountered a peak Heaven Immortal expert, their group would dominate the entire Great Dao Valley. Ningyu, how many profound immortal laws do you have in total? The eight-legged demonic beast swallowed his saliva and asked, How many do I have? I'm already very lucky to have one. Ningyu rolled his eyes, then kicked Immortal Blood Poison and said, Have you thought it through? Submit to me or choose death. Uft. You want me to submit to you? In your next life, Immortal Blood Poison's expression was cold as he said viciously, "Crack! Ning, you didn't waste words with Immortal Blood Venom." Instead, he stomped down on Immortal Blood Venom's head, causing it to explode. Then Ningyu, along with Immortal Blood Poison's primordial spirit and corpse, were thrown into his storage ring. After all, the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu were in the storage ring. Ning, you did not want to favor one and discriminate against the other. I'll go in and watch. The Red Devil immediately fused with the Red Devil's sword and quickly entered the storage ring. Although Immortal Blood Poison's head had been crushed, his primordial spirit was still there. The Red Devil was worried that Ning Lu and the human devil would be in danger, so he wanted to enter the storage ring to help them. Along the way, the Red Devil had enjoyed the power of 500 great Tao alone. To be honest, the Red Devil felt a little bad. Now that there were benefits, he naturally would not ask for more. Let me introduce myself. Ning Yu fiddled with the profound immortal laws in his hand as his gaze landed on Immortal Blood Poison. For some reason, Ning Yu sensed a slightly palpitating aura from Immortal Blood Poison. Of course, it was only palpitating. It did not mean that Ning Yu could not kill Immortal Blood Poison. Ning Yu's idea was very simple. He wanted to understand the other experts in the Tao Valley through Immortal Blood Poison. I am Immortal Blood Poison from the Primordial Demon Sect. Immortal Blood Poison regained her composure and said, "There are many experts in the Tao Valley. Even if you have the profound immortal laws, you will not be able to dominate the great Tao Valley. If you have 2 or 3 profound immortal laws, you might be able to gain a foothold in the Tao Valley. However, you only have 1 profound immortal law." At this point, Immortal Hongling shook her head and continued, "I'm sorry to say that you only have 1 choice now. Join forces with me. Only by joining forces with me can you dominate the great Tao Valley and obtain enough opportunities." One had to admit that Immortal Blood Poison was very good at persuading people. If Ning Yu was just an ordinary martial artist, he might have been deceived by her. But unfortunately, Ning Yu was not an ordinary martial artist. From the beginning, he had never thought of joining forces with Immortal Blood Poison. Chapter 2037. The so-called opportunity that you speak of. Naturally, Ning Yu would not be convinced by Immortal Hongling. He stared at her and asked calmly, "What exactly is it?" "Heavenly immortal laws." Immortal Hongling's gaze involuntarily shifted to the demonic human and 8-legged demonic beast at the side. She said in a deep voice, "If I'm not wrong, a palace in the deepest part of the great Tao Valley should be filled with people right now." Ning Yu frowned. He vaguely felt that Immortal Hongling was not as simple as she seemed on the surface. Although Immortal Hongling was trying her best to rope him in, it had to be said that this move of hers was a retreat in order to advance. At that thought, Ning Yu's brows unfurrowed. If Immortal Hongling was facing someone else, perhaps this move would be effective. Unfortunately, she was facing Ning Yu. If she used this move again, it was destined to be fruitless. Actually, there's no conflict of interest between us, nor do we have any enmity between us. We can totally work together. When she saw Ning Yu's expression, Immortal Hongling seemed to have grasped some key point and said again, "When the time comes, I only want 10% of the heavenly immortal laws. The remaining 90% will belong to you. Do you think that I can't obtain those heavenly immortal laws by myself?" Ning Yu did not answer Immortal Hongling's question. Instead, he asked her a question. Thump! Immortal Hongling's heart skipped a beat when she heard Ning Yu's question. At that moment, she was already certain that Ning Yu did not intend to keep her. Her expression was dark and uncertain. Finally, she gritted her teeth and said, "I know another secret." Ning Yu looked at Immortal Hongling with a faint smile, but did not say anything. Ning Yu's expression calmed Immortal Hongling down a little. No matter what, as long as Ning Yu gave her a chance to continue speaking, she might be able to survive. After sorting out her thoughts, Immortal Hongling said in a deep voice, "Actually, everyone in the Great Dao Valley is just a goo worm." Goo worm? Ning Yu's heart skipped a beat, but he said calmly, "Tell me about it." Ning Yu naturally knew what goo worms meant. Some places would drive all kinds of goo worms to one place and let them kill each other, and the result of this kind of cannibalism would be the final Goo King. When he entered the Great Dao Valley, Ning Yu had the same thought, but in the end, he rejected this thought in his heart. After all, there were martial artists from the Sacred Divine Palace, the Primeval Demon Sect, the Ancient Demon Sect, the Heaven Secret Sect, and many other powerful forces in the Great Dao Valley. Who had the guts to treat them as goo worms? Actually, I only heard about this by chance. In order to survive, Immortal Hongling had no choice but to reveal all the secrets she knew. It turned out that within the Dao Valley, there are a total of several types of fortuitous opportunities. The weakest was the great Dao energy in the middle. Naturally, those truly strong cultivators would disdain such opportunities. The slightly stronger fortuitous opportunities were located in the Great Dao Palace in the deepest part of the Great Dao Valley. This was because there was a considerable amount of heaven immortal laws in the Great Dao Palace. Of course, the most tempting opportunity was in the passageway that led to the higher planes. That passage was called the Path to Heaven. It was rumored that there were not only Xian immortal laws in the Path to Heaven, but also the corpses of Xian immortals. The Path to Heaven, as its name suggested, was a path from a low-level plane to a high-level plane. What does this have to do with raising goo worms? Ning Yu frowned because Immortal Hongling did not explain the specific reason. She glanced at Ning Yu and said solemnly, "The Path to Heaven only allows martial artists below the Xian immortal level to enter. As for those who have reached the Xian immortal level, they're not allowed to enter. If I'm not wrong, there should be several powerful forces at the end of the Path to Heaven, and the weakest among them is a half-step Xian immortal." Gasp! Hearing Immortal Hongling's explanation, the human demon and the eight-legged demonic beast gasped. They did not expect such a secret to exist. Since there were Xian immortals guarding the end of the Path to Heaven, why did they risk their lives to enter the Path to Heaven? One must know that even if they obtained a great opportunity, they would not be a match for Xian immortals. "We have no other choice." As if sensing the confusion in the human demon and the eight-legged demonic beast, Immortal Hongling continued, "Those Xian immortal lords have already taken control of the immortal spirit realm. If we want to return to a high-level plane, we can only go through the Path to Heaven. If you want to stay in the immortal spirit realm for the rest of your life, you naturally do not need to participate." At this time, the human demon and the eight-legged demonic beast finally understood. Who did not want to enter a high-level plane? Staying in the immortal spirit realm meant that they would never be able to break through to a higher level. Even heaven immortals had a limited lifespan. Immortal Hongling was right. Unless they wanted to stay in the immortal spirit realm for the rest of their lives, most people would come to the Great Dao Valley. I want to know which forces the Xian immortals at the other end of the Path to Heaven are from. Ning Yu stared into Immortal Hongling's eyes and asked. Ning Yu could almost be sure that Immortal Hongling was not lying to him. Since Immortal Hongling was not lying to him, then he had to clarify some things. At the very least, he had to know which forces the experts guarding the other end of the Path to Heaven were from. Sacred Divine Palace, Primordial Demon Sect, Ancient Demon Sect, Fallen Spirit Sect, and Heaven's Secret Sect. Immortal Hongling did not dare to hide anything and answered honestly. "You mean to say that all of you have been abandoned?" Ning Yu frowned. Whether it was Immortal Hongling or the peerless geniuses like the demonic Tua Divine Sun, they were all the pillars of these forces. Even though the sacred divine palace and the other sects were huge forces that ruled over several territories, losing one or even several peerless geniuses was still painful. Why do you think the sacred divine palace and the other sects would scheme against their own peerless geniuses? Don't they feel heartache? Immortal Hongling asked. However, before Ningyu could answer, Immortal Hongling explained, apart from the Heaven Secrets sect, the strongest experts of these forces are all half-step Xian immortals. And the most crucial point is that their lifespans are reaching the limit. That's why they are willing to take the risk and sacrifice the peerless geniuses of their sects to obtain some Xian immortal laws from the path to heaven, because to them one Xian immortal law can allow them to live for another 10,000 years. After saying this, Immortal Hongling did not speak further. Instead, she quietly waited for Ning Yu's decision. If Ning Yu still chose to kill her, then she could only fight back. But if Ning Yu chose to keep her, then her persuasion would become invaluable. You've convinced me, so I'll keep you by my side for the time being. However, if you have the slightest thought of resisting, I'll kill you instantly. Chapter 2038. Swoosh! Immortal Hongling merely frowned slightly as she looked at the soul power flying towards her. She did not do anything out of line. At this moment, Immortal Hongling knew very well that if she dared to make any strange movements, Ningyu would kill her. This was evident from the five-fingered immortal. What Ningyu wanted was absolute obedience. As for those who didn't obey him, he would kill them without leaving any future troubles. Since there was no way she could resist, Immortal Hongling released her consciousness and allowed Ningyu to control her. That's smart. Ningyu nodded in satisfaction at Immortal Hongling's actions. Just as Immortal Hongling had thought, as long as she had any ulterior motives, he would kill her. Lead the way. Controlling Immortal Hongling did not take up too much of Ningyu's time. A moment later, Ningyu waved his hand and said in a deep voice, "Let's go to the Great Tao Hall first." No problem. Immortal Hongling leaped up and headed straight for the Great Tao Hall. Ningyu, the human demon, the eight-legged beast, and the five-fingered immortal followed closely behind her. Meanwhile, in the deepest part of the Great Tao Valley, in front of the Great Tao Hall, swoosh! Every once in a while, a few figures would tear through the void and appear. If Ningyu was here, he would definitely notice that the weakest of the martial artists that appeared from the void was an early-stage Heaven Immortal. As for martial artists below the Heaven Immortal level, there was no way they could come here. Buzz! Suddenly the void trembled. Two young martial artists slowly walked out of the void. Should we go in first? One of the two young martial artists, a man in his 20s, scanned the surroundings and said, "If the two of us join forces, we can easily break through the door of the Great Tao Hall." The other young woman glanced at the man who had spoken, then found a secluded spot and chose to close her eyes to rest. The young woman's actions caused a cold look to surface in the young man's eyes. But very quickly, this cold gaze disappeared and was replaced with indifference. "Zhao Rui, you can't escape from me." The corners of the young man's mouth rose into an arc, but he didn't say another word. Hua! In the following period of time, experts would appear from time to time. However, these martial artists were very well behaved and did not make a ruckus. They all randomly found a place to stop. About an hour later. Ahem! Jin Hua stood up. His gaze paused on Zhao Rui for a moment. After obtaining Zhao Rui's approval, he coughed dryly twice and spoke in a clear voice. "I shall not say any more unnecessary words. Since everyone is able to come here, let's state our purpose. Kacha!" However, before Jin Hua could finish his sentence, a crack was heard in the void. Following that, several figures appeared. The sudden turn of events caused Jin Hua's expression to turn extremely unsightly. Whoosh! However, while Jin Hua's expression was ugly, Zhao Rui, who was beside him, suddenly opened her eyes and glared at the leading cultivator. Ning Yu. Zhao Rui. Almost at the same time, Zhao Rui and the leading martial artist spoke in unison. Jin Hua's eyes were fixed on Ning Yu. After all, Zhao Rui had praised Ning Yu in front of him more than once. Now that Ning Yu had appeared, he naturally had to carefully observe him. After Zhao Rui and Ning Yu spoke in unison, they were met with a brief moment of silence. In the end, it was Ning Yu who broke the silence and asked, "I heard that you were taken away by a mysterious expert." As he spoke, Ning Yu's gaze landed on Jin Hua, intentionally or unintentionally. Undisguised. Ning Yu's gaze was undisguised and undisguised. Ning Yu's meaning was clear. As long as Zhao Rui gave the word, he would take down Jin Hua on the spot. Gotcha! Ning Yu's undisguised gaze made Jin Hua's already gloomy expression turn even colder. He's my friend. How could Zhao Rui not know what Ning Yu meant? She laughed bitterly and pointed to Jin Hua as she explained. When I entered the Dao Valley, he was the first to find me. The reason why Zhao Rui explained Jin Hua's identity to Ning Yu was that she did not want Ning Yu to misunderstand. On the other hand, she did not want Ning Yu and Jin Hua to have a conflict. After all, in her opinion, Ning Yu was definitely not Jin Hua's match. Although Ning Yu gave her a mysterious and unfathomable feeling, she still felt that Jin Hua would win. I hope so. Ning Yu shrugged and did not comment. To be honest, anyone with eyes could tell that Jin Hua was definitely up to no good. Because of his relationship with Zhao Rui, otherwise, Ning Yu would definitely teach Jin Hua a lesson. Because the moment he appeared, Jin Hua had a deep enmity towards him. Did I offend you? Have we met before? Ning Yu's attitude towards life was that he would do anything for his friends and kill all his enemies. Crack, crack, crack. Seeing Ning Yu's indifferent face with a hint of disdain, Jin Hua clenched his fists so hard that they made cracking sounds. Swoosh! In an instant, Jin Hua stamped his feet on the ground and rushed out. When Jin Hua was in the high-level Central Divine Dynasty, he had never been bullied like this. He was an absolute genius, ranked in the top 50 of the Central Divine Dynasty. Even some peak experts in the mid-sized territories would be polite when they saw him, for fear of offending him. However, Ning Yu not only looked at him with a hint of disdain, but also ignored him. This was really intolerable. Red Devil. Ning Yu frowned slightly, glanced at Zhao Rui casually, and then handed over Red Devil. Ning, you did not plan to deal with Jin Hua. After all, he now had two trump cards, the mysterious immortal law and the origin divine staff. It was difficult to compete with Jin Hua with his own strength, but Red Devil was different. Ning Yu knew very well that although he had thrown immortal Blood Poison's corpse and primordial spirit into his storage ring for the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu to devour, Red Devil had gained a lot of benefits. Because immortal Blood Poison's primordial spirit was too powerful, the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu could not refine it with their strength. Therefore, immortal Blood Poison's primordial spirit naturally fell on Red Devil. If Red Devil's strength was only at the late-stage Heaven Immortal before, then his current strength could contend with some veteran late-stage Heaven Immortal experts. Slash! Red Devil knew that Ning Yu wanted to establish his dominance, so he did not hold back and used his full strength in the first move. Red Devil waved the Red Devil sword in his hand, and in an instant, a terrifying sword light shot out. Oh no! Seeing the sword light shot out from the Red Devil sword, Jin Hua's expression changed slightly. He hurriedly gathered the primordial qi in his body on his fist and punched out. What Jin Hua was afraid of was not Red Devil, but the Red Devil sword in his hand. As a peerless genius of the Central Divine Dynasty, Jinhua could tell at a glance that the Red Devil sword had reached the late stage, Heavenly Treasure. The late stage, Heavenly Treasure was not scary. What was scary was that it could exert its full strength in the hands of Red Devil. Damn it! Jinhua could not help but curse. Now, Jinhua regretted not using his full strength. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.